Good evening and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Am I visible and audible? Yeah, good evening, Srinidhi, Rajneet. Anushka. Yeah, good evening, all of you. Am I audible and visible? Joy Belua. Okay, thank you, Brajneet. Let us wait for some more people to join in and then I'll begin. Good evening. Yeah, good evening, Gunjan, Simran, Mishak. Right. So let's begin today's session. Yesterday, I completed the unification of Italy and we made a comparison between the German unification movement and the Italian unification movement. I forgot to mention one bit about the Italian unification movement. Um, so let me throw light on that part because it becomes relevant when we come to World War One. Now, on your screen, you see regarding the Italian unification movement. Regarding the Italian unification movement, when was United Italy born? United Italy was born in 1871. In fact, two countries were born in 1871, namely Germany and Italy. Right, and the Treaty of Frankfurt ratified the establishment of these two countries, and we know all that. But then there were some people within the Italian peninsula who were not happy with the way the map of Italy looked. They are called the irredentists. They are called the irredentists. They are called the irredentists. So they felt that Italy has not expanded to its natural frontiers. Right? Italy has not expanded to its natural frontiers. In other words, they wanted some more territories to be part of Italy. And this had not happened in 1871. And this is called the Irredentista movement. Irredentista movement. Irredentista movement. What is this Irredentista movement? Movement on the part of these Irredentists to see that those territories which were outside the nation of Italy are also incorporated inside Italy, they also become part of Italy. So we have areas like you see Nice, then Gorzia, then Tyrol, Dalmatia, Istria, etc. These are some of the areas which they felt should be part of Italy. Right now, when the First World War broke out, you see, please understand this, please. When the First World War broke out, the First World War was fought between two groups, Triple Entente, the Triple Alliance, versus the Triple Entente. Who are the countries of the Triple Alliance? We have Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. And of course, later Bulgaria also joined them. Bulgaria and Turkey joined them. These are the countries who fought the First World War on the side of the Triple Alliance. And Triple Entente countries, what is the meaning of Entente, etc.? I'll talk about it when I come to World War I proper. Now, the triple entente countries were England, France, Russia, etc. Now, during the course of the First World War was fought between 1914 to 1918, right? Now, these irredentists were very angry. Please understand here, these irredentists were very angry that Italy is fighting on the same side as Austria, because many territories of Italy were part of the Austrian empire, like Nice, Gorizia, Tyrol, etc. So these, and at the same time, you have England, France, Russia, England, France, and other countries telling Italy that if you come to our side, then we will see that you get all those territories which you desire. And because of the pressure exerted on the Italian government by the irredentists, we have Italy switching loyalties. In the midst of the war, that is sometime in April 1915, Italy joined the side of the Triple Entente countries. The main reason is this, because you have the pressure exerted by the irredentists on the side of the on the Italian government. Did you understand what I just now told you? Can you raise your hands? Did you understand what I just now told you? When I come to First World War, I'll again, try to make you remember this. I'll make a reference to this. So why Italy joined the side of the Triple Entente countries? Just 1 year after the war, we have Italy switching loyalties. Okay, so this is what I forgot to tell you yesterday as part of the Italian unification movement. So we'll come back to Industrial Revolution. We'll come back to the topic, Industrial Revolution. Now, yesterday I was talking about Industrial Revolution. We began this topic. So basically, what is this Industrial Revolution? It happened in England first. We will look at the peculiar conditions which existed in England for the Industrial Revolution to take place there first. But then you see, it is nothing but the machines replacing human and animal labor, and people preferring to live in cities than in villages. So this particular development or phenomena is called Industrial Revolution. It first happened in England, right? So people began to prefer to live in cities, and machines replaced human and animal labor. Now, before England experienced the Industrial Revolution, which is basically a technological revolution, I told you that she experienced what is called a agricultural revolution. She experienced what is called an agricultural revolution, and we have the invention of a few agricultural implements or instruments. Jethro Tull's horse-drawn seed drill. Jethro Tull's horse-drawn seed drill. So this could plant 3 rows of seeds at a time. So it increased the yield by 5 folds. So 3 rows of seeds could be planted, and it increased the yield by 5 times. Jethro Tull's horse-drawn seed drill. Joseph Foliambi's Rotherham plow. So this particular plow used a iron blade. So therefore, with the iron blade, you could, plow the soil, plow the land at a deeper level, and that also increased the fertility. And you required just 2 horses and 1 plowman to plow the land. It cut labor costs and saved time. Of course, the Dutch 4-crop rotation system introduced by Lord Turnip Townshend. I told you how wheat and barley reduced the fertility of the soil, and therefore in the subsequent year, turnip and cloves were grown on the same plot of land, and where turnip and cloves had been grown, wheat and barley was grown. So this way, all the parts of the land were utilized effectively, and turnips and cloves added to the fertility of the soil, restored the fertility of the soil, at the same time contributed towards animal husbandry, more milk, more meat, etc. And of course, we have the enclosure movement. So these are all the developments, important developments in the agricultural sector, which happened in England just before the Industrial Revolution took off in that country. Yeah, it is Industrial Revolution, right? So we have looked at the Industrial Revolution. Now we were discussing the textile sector. I discussed the textile sector. I told you that there was a lot of demand for cotton and cotton textiles in England. People in England developed a liking for wearing cotton textiles because it is skin friendly. It breathes compared to wool or silk or linen, for that matter. And there was a lot of demand for cotton clothes. And initially, pig iron, all the machines were made of pig iron. These machines were located in small units or small scale industries or cottage industries of England. And generally, the ratio earlier was 4:1, where you have four spinners working day and night and giving enough quantity of thread or yarn to one weaver. So the ratio used to be 4:1. And if at all an innovation had to take place, it should have taken place in the spinning sector so that the process of spinning yarn or thread could be hastened. But that did not happen. In fact, we have a machine which was invented in the weaving sector, that is the flying shuttle. The flying shuttle. And this flying shuttle further created an imbalance in the spinning sector, necessitating a counter invention in that sector in order to set right the balance. And that imbalance in the spinning sector was set right by the invention of the spinning jenny of James Hargreaves. Right, and this is how the industrial revolution proceeded. As I told you, an invention in one sector led to a imbalance in a related sector, necessitating an invention in that sector in order to set right the balance. And of course, we have other machines, both in the spinning and weaving industry, which were invented in course of time. We have the water frame of Richard Arkwright. The driving force for this machine was provided by a waterfall or a hydraulic power, and this machine was very huge, installed underneath a waterfall, and installed in huge buildings which came to be called factories. So the water frame of Richard Arkwright inaugurated the modern factory system. What we now call factory happened with the water frame. And with the water frame, finer, purer cotton threads could be manufactured. Earlier, they used to mix cotton with linen so that the thread or yarn doesn't break off when it is being spun. But then now, with the help of the water frame, pure cotton threads could be manufactured, and as a result, pure cotton fabrics could also be manufactured. Then we have the mule. The mule, invented by Samuel Crompton. This had the advantages. It combined the advantages of the spinning jenny and the water frame. And with the help of the mule, they could make stronger and finer yarn, much more stronger and finer thread or yarn could be manufactured. Power loom of Edmund Cartwright used steam power. You can see here initially it was human or animal labor, then steam power came to be used, and then the water power came to be used, and then steam power came to be used. So Edmund Cartwright invented the power loom. Further, you have cotton gin of Eli Whitney, an American, who invented this cotton gin, which mechanically separated the cotton fiber from the cotton seeds. So that further hastened the process of spinning and, of course, weaving. And, of course, sewing machine was invented by Elias Howe. So these are the important inventions in the textile sector. So we discussed this yesterday. Then I came to the metallurgical industry, important developments in the metallurgical sector. I'm refreshing this so that we can complete this topic from its inception and finish it, and then go to other subsequent topics in today's class. Now, these machines like the flying shuttle, the spinning jenny, initially were made of pig iron. As we have seen yesterday's class, they were made of pig iron. So pig iron has a lot of impurities. Basically, iron ore is extracted from the bowels of the earth, from underneath the ground, from underneath the bowels of the earth, and then coal was used to fire them up, to melt the iron ore. But coal has a lot of impurities, therefore it is not able to generate that much amount of heat which can burn off those impurities. Therefore, whatever iron ore was melted inevitably contained a lot of impurities. And these machines, initially in the textile sector, like the flying shuttle and the spinning jenny, were made of pig iron. So the metallic compound was pig iron. And pig iron, since it has a lot of impurities, would not be able to run for a longer period of time. The machine will get heated up, it will overheat. And if you continue to run the machine even after it has heated up, it will crack up. It will crack and it will break down. So the cottage and small scale owners of England began to look to the metallurgists of England to solve this problem for them. And this problem was solved by the metallurgists of England, particularly the Darby family, the grandfather, father, and son. So we have the first Darby, Abraham Darby, who invented the blast furnace. So in this blast furnace, obviously it used coke, a superior quality coal through which impurities could be burnt off, right? And larger castings, larger and finer castings were made possible because of the blast furnace. Then we have the second Darby who invented the wrought iron. So strong under tension and much more superior to pig iron. So now machines came to be manufactured out of wrought iron, and they could run for a longer period of time compared to pig iron machines, machines made of pig iron. Then Henry Cott invented the puddling furnace and the rolling mill. So puddling furnace is what? In which molten iron could be rid of impurities. You could get rid of the impurities with that puddling furnace. And rolling mill, it used steam power to roll purified iron into bars. Then we have the invention of the cast iron by John Wilkinson. So pig iron, then wrought iron, then cast iron. A much more superior iron compared to wrought iron, strong under tension, and that enabled the manufacturing of chairs, vats for breweries and distilleries, iron pipes to transport water, etc. And even the machines can be made of cast iron, which will run for a longer period of time compared to both pig iron and wrought iron. Then we have the third Darby, who who set up or installed the first iron bridge in the world on the banks on the River Severn. You can see here this is the River Severn, and this is at a place called Coalbrookdale in England. And then later we have the Bessemer process of making steel, which was developed. So, but of course, I told you yesterday's class, the iron ore in England contained a lot of phosphorus. And therefore, through the Bessemer process, it could not have been possible to make use of the iron-rich, phosphorus-rich iron ores of England and convert that into steel. Therefore, we have two people, Siemens and Martin, who developed the Siemens and Martin process of making steel, through which the phosphorus-rich iron ores of England could also be fabricated into steel. And once steel was invented, we have all these machines in the mills made of steel. They could run for any length of time without breaking down. At the same time, we have suspension bridges, skyscrapers, railroads or railways. All these became possible because of the steel as such. So to put things in perspective, if you see, you have the largest building, the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. So this is just a little less than 1 kilometer in height, just a little less than 1 kilometer in height. And this has been made possible because of steel and cement, of course, which was not there before the Industrial Revolution. Right. So whatever we see, as of now, the skyscrapers, suspension bridges, rails, even your metro, etc., all this has been made possible because of steel. So these are the important developments in the metallurgical sector. Are you there with me? So now machines were made of steel, and they could run for a continuous period of time without breaking down. Initially, steel, you have pig iron replaced by wrought iron replaced by cast iron, cast iron replaced by steel. So now these machines were made of steel and they could run for a continuous period of time. And England was able to manufacture quite a lot of cotton textiles. And the same machines were now utilized in the woolen and silk industries also, and in the other mills of England, in other factories also. These machines came to be made of steel. I stopped here yesterday's class. Can I continue, all of you? Clear till here? So I just recapped whatever I have done yesterday. Now let me move on. You see, the way I'm explaining this topic did not happen in the way I'm explaining, in a linear fashion. It did not happen in a linear fashion. I told you, whenever the machines broke down, machines made of pig iron broke down, the factory owners, the small scale and cottage industries owners of England, they looked up to the metallurgists to provide them with a superior compound, a metallic compound. And that's where the metallurgists came into the picture. Now, you see, we have now developments in the steam sector. Steam. No, this is not a new chapter, Umma. We had begun this topic yesterday, Industrial Revolution. I just recapped till wherever I had done, and I'm continuing the topic. Now look here. So here we have inventions in the or developments in the textile sector with the development of or invention of new machines, and then simultaneously we have inventions, improvements in the metallurgical sector. Now, man in England began to dig deeper and deeper into the bowels of the earth to extract more coal and iron ore. So you obviously have to dig deeper and deeper into the mines to extract more coal and iron ore, isn't it? Coal and iron ore. And after digging a particular feet under the ground, let's say 50 feet, 100 feet, or 150 feet, they struck water. They struck water. So you have water here. The mines have got flooded with water. And without removing that water, without extracting that water from the mines, a man in England couldn't have, extracted more iron ore and coal because the mines have got flooded with water. And manually, it becomes very difficult to remove all the water because water might keep coming. And how much can you draw water manually from the mines? Therefore, it became necessary in England. It became necessary to found a pump, to invent a pump which will mechanically draw out water from the mines. And you see, now they decided to think about steam power. This is how they thought about steam. And you see, in ancient times, from ancient times, man knew the utility of steam rather. You knew the utility of steam. For example, during the period of the pharaohs, in ancient Egypt, pharaohs who built the pyramids, etc. You have the ancient Egyptians utilizing steam power to open and shut temple doors. They used to use steam power to open and shut temple doors. So, how do you get steam? Obviously, when you boil water beyond a particular boiling point, you get steam. And when steam power is directed towards a particular point, it has tremendous driving force. So man always knew the power of steam. Now, Thomas Savery, a person called Thomas Savery in England, developed a pump. He called it as the miner's friend. You can see this is the miner's friend. A pump which will mechanically draw out water from the mines. But then this particular machine had some defects. What was the defect? It could only work in shallow depths. It only could work in shallow depths, and the boiler burst. It could not work at a deeper level. Therefore, it was necessary to improve upon this particular machine. And that improvement was done by a person called Thomas Newcomen. Thomas Newcomen invented another pump called the atmospheric steam engine. This is Thomas Newcomen, and he invented the atmospheric steam engine, which was an improvement over the miner's friend. Now, again, this also had some defects. This machine, atmospheric steam engine, also had some defects, and that was perfected. All those defects were removed by James Watt, who invented the steam engine. Right? And James Watt, this is James Watt on your screen, and this is the steam engine invented by him, James Watt. Now, James Watt's engines, that is Watt's steam engine, could work day and night without failing, and they could easily draw out water from the mines. Did you understand? Now, James Watt had a friend called Matthew Boulton. He was a very rich man, Matthew Boulton. So, along with Matthew Boulton, James Watt, they opened a factory. Where Watt's engines came to be mass produced. So you have Watt's steam engines were mass produced in that factory, owned by Matthew Boulton and James Watt. And these steam engines of Watt steam engines, not only were used in the mines now, but also they were used in the factories of England, in the mills, in the cotton textile mills, and later in the silk and the woolen mills, and in other factories. And then, did you understand? So this is the steam power, perfected by James Watt. And when we talk about the power loom, when we talk about the power loom, you see Edmund Cartwright's power loom. The power loom ran with the help of steam power, and that was nothing but a Watt's engine behind the success of the power loom. Did you understand? Hello, all of you. Clear? Very easy. So now what happened? Now what happened? So here, Watt's engines are able to easily draw out water from the mines. And as a result, man was able to go deeper and deeper into the bowels of the earth. Earlier, when he went 150 feet, he struck water. And without removing the water, he could not have extracted more coal and iron ore from the mines. Now, the Watt steam engines had solved this problem for him, and they were able to easily draw out water from the mines. Right now, he went deeper and deeper. And then man struck gas, natural gas. He struck natural gas and he began to exploit natural gas. And he went further deeper. And then he struck oil. And this is how the Industrial Revolution happened. He also began to exploit oil. And this is how the Industrial Revolution happened. Did you understand? This is Industrial Revolution for you. So, began in the textile sector. Simultaneously, you have a necessity felt to improve provide a better metallic compound in the metallurgical sector, and simultaneously steam sector, and ultimately they were able to perfect a steam engine which was able to easily draw out water from the mines, and man was able to go deeper into the bowels of the earth. He was able to strike natural gas. He began to exploit natural gas and later oil. And then now oil also was tapped by man, and he began to use oil also. And this is how the Industrial Revolution happened. Right. Now look here. The invention, so here, James Watt steam engine initially was used to draw water from the mines and also simultaneously used in the factories. So slightly some alterations were made, some adjustments were made, and then they were also fabricated in such a manner that they could run the machines in the mills and the factories of England. Now, an enterprising fellow called James Fulton, understand this? James Fulton, an American. So this James Fulton, what he did is, he took the steam engine and he fitted it to a boat. So as a result, you have a steamboat which came into existence. And so you have steamboats coming into existence. And then they took a larger steam engine and fitted it to a ship, right? So that resulted in a steamship. Like, for example, the Titanic, which sunk in its maiden voyage, was a steamship. You must have seen that Titanic movie, pretty popular movie called Titanic, long time back. So steamships came into existence, and very soon you have transatlantic ocean liners crossing the Atlantic. And you have regular passenger service and also freight service across the Atlantic. Now, we have a person called George Stephenson. George Stephenson. George Stephenson, what did he do? He attached the steam engine to a locomotive, or what you call a railroad or a railways, right? So George Stephenson, he made certain alterations to the steam engine and attached it to a locomotive or a train, and he was able to ply this train. Basically, it was used to it was connected from the port to the mine to the port and back. Manchester to Liverpool, the first train service, and then you have very soon passenger trains coming into existence in England, right? And the invention of the railroad, they call it as the railroad, or what is called train or railways, inaugurated the second phase of the Industrial Revolution. This happened around 1850. The second phase of the Industrial Revolution is from 1850 onwards with the invention of the railways. Did you understand? So please understand, the first stage of when we talk about Industrial Revolution, it first happened in England. And from England, it spread to other parts of Europe, and from Europe to other parts of the world. So which is the dividing line here between the first and the second phase? the year 1850. 1850, that is the time when the railways were invented and perfected, and that inaugurated the second phase of the Industrial Revolution, which is another phase of technological revolution. But there is no clean break between the two. It is actually a continuous revolution. But for the sake of convenience, historians call it as a second industrial revolution. And we have great developments, great inventions happening in the second phase. We have electricity being invented. Then chemical, we have developments in the chemical industry, electrical industry, steel production also happened in the second phase. So all these happened during the second phase, and we have great inventions like refrigeration, canning, mass production of consumer goods, airplane, telephone, telegraph, the light bulb. All these things were invented during the second phase. Steam, internal combustion engines. So all these things happened in the second phase. Did you understand? All of you clear? This is the gist of the Industrial Revolution. It happened in England, and from England spread to Europe and to other parts of the world. And within a period of 100 to 150 years, the whole world was industrialized. Almost the whole world was industrialized. Right. Now, we'll come back here. You see here, I'll just show you the phases on your screen. On your screen, you see here, please. We have the first phase, 1780 to 1850. So the first it happened in England, and it was centered on textiles, iron production. So textile, that is cotton textile industry. Then metallurgy, that is iron. Then new methods of roads and canals. New methods of roads and canals. I'm coming to that in some time. Just hold on. So new methods of making roads were developed, and also there was a canal building mania in England, and a vast, increase in foreign trade. Vast increase in foreign trade between England and her colonies and other countries also. So the first phase happened only in England, and we have remarkable developments in these areas: cotton textile industry, metallurgy, roads and canals, and foreign trade. And of course, coal mining. And one more thing is coal mining. So cotton textiles, metallurgy, coal mining, roads and canals, and foreign trade. Then you have Great Britain's American colonies, the 13 colonies of America, right? So they had shipbuilding and iron production industries. Salutary neglect. Remember salutary neglect? So you have the Iron Act of 1750. The Iron Act of 1750 prohibited the manufacture of hardware in America, but still you have factories been established there. So you have shipbuilding and iron production industries in the 13 colonies. Then some German states began to industrialize their metalworking, particularly in Prussia. You remember unification of Germany, the Rhinelands became part of Prussia. So here we have some German states beginning to industrialize. Then in the Industrial Revolution in France, IR in short is Industrial Revolution, in France was stalled by the French Revolution. So French Revolution began in 1789. And in fact, France also experienced Industrial Revolution simultaneously along with England. But then because of the onset of the revolution there, the outbreak of the revolution in France, the Industrial Revolution in France got stalled. And please understand, England was manufacturing mass consumer goods, which is demanded by the masses like toothpaste, soap, etc. Whereas France was manufacturing luxury goods. Though the Industrial Revolution had got stalled, she was manufacturing only luxury goods like silk, etc. So whatever was produced in England, England was able to sell it easily for a profit. And there was also a demand for those goods. So England continued to industrialize and continued to sell and make profits throughout the world. Whereas France, the Industrial Revolution did not take off there in that country. One is because of the French Revolution, which broke out there. And secondly, of course, because of she manufacturing luxury goods and not mass consumer goods. And Belgium was the first continental country to industrialize. I told you yesterday that Great Britain is the biggest island in the British Isles. And then we have mainland Europe, right? Mainland Europe. You see the map here. I show you. I put a map here. On your screen, you see here, England is the cradle of the Industrial Revolution. You see, this is England. Okay, so this is an island, biggest of the British Isles. And then in mainland, you have all these countries. I'll come to that in some time. Just hold on. This is the first phase. Just know the story, Nikhil. I would say nothing wrong if you remember the inventor, but then you don't need to remember the dates. The date is not important. The date of invention of spinning jenny, flying shuttle, not necessary. Just know the sequence of the story, whatever I've told you, how it happened. That is enough. And if you can remember the name of the inventor, it is good. It'll add weight to your answers. Then we have the second phase. Where the Industrial Revolution spread from England to other countries. And by 1850, you see here, this is the dividing line, 1850. Other countries like Germany and America had overtaken England. In the race for industrialization, Germany and America had overtaken England by 1850. Now we have important developments in these areas. Chemicals, you see here, chemicals, heavy engineering, steel production, also electrical. You have electrical. In the electrical field, electricity was invented. The light bulb was invented by Thomas Alva Edison. So it centered on chemicals, heavy engineering, steel production, aided by the Bessemer process. Then Germany, she became unified in 1871. You all know this yesterday's class, the day before yesterday's class. So once she was unified in 1871, the industrialization accelerated in that country, and she was able to easily overtake England. Then European industrialization made possible due to technology and workforce freed from serfdom. So you have serfdom, which was abolished as an institution. So you have plenty of cheap labor available in European countries. So that also helped in the process of industrial revolution in those countries. And America, industrialization was made possible because of immigrants, skilled immigrants. So from various parts of Europe, people began to go to Americas, right? They migrated into America, and they were very educated, skilled, and that also contributed towards the strength of America, the industrial strength of America. This is number 2, phase 2. Then we come to third phase. Third phase, 1890 onwards. It spread to other parts of the world like Russia, Japan, etc. So Russia, Sweden, France, Italy, Japan. And we have the application of industrial processes to chemical, electrical engineering, car manufacture, and increasingly armaments. Even weapons came to be mass produced. Okay, so this is the 3 phases of the Industrial Revolution. So what are the specific, let us understand the specific inventions. You see here, in the first phase on your screen, please, in the first phase, that is 1780s to 1820, we have great developments in cotton and iron industries, in coal mining, building of roads and canals, and foreign trade. This is called first Industrial Revolution, confined to only England between 1780s to 1850s. Voice is not clear. Viresh, what about others? Pari, just hold on. Are you able to hear me clearly? All clear. Viresh, probably you have to refresh. Others are not having any problem. So probably you have to refresh. Okay, we'll come to World War I, World War II in some time, Gaurav. Just hold on. So this is the first phase, confined to only England in certain areas. Okay, cotton textile industry, coal mining, metallurgy, roads and canal building, and of course, vast progress in foreign trade. Then the second phase, and of course, please understand, I'll come to this part. In the first phase in England, you have a lot of exploitation of women and children. I'll come to that part in some time, just hold on. Then we have the second phase. Second phase, this is from 1850 onwards. This is called Second Industrial Revolution. So what are the specific improvements or areas where you have improvements? Chemical, electrical, petroleum, and steel industries. And what are the specific inventions in the second phase? On your screen, you have oil-fired steam turbine, internal combustion-driven steel ships, electric power generation, airplane, automobile, that is cars, consumer goods, mass production of consumer goods, perfection of canning, mechanical refrigeration, food preservation techniques, invention of the telephone. These are the important inventions in the second phase. And of course, we have great progress in petroleum sector. So petroleum industry also, you have oil struck from kerosene, from coal. They learned how to extract kerosene from coal and then later oil. So these are the important developments. You don't need to remember, all the inventors or what all they did in the petroleum sector. Anyway, I have put it here. This is for your information. But you just understand that in the second phase, they also were able to tap oil, right, and exploit oil. Oil was discovered, and they were able to exploit it, right? And of course, we have the war of the currents. Thomas Alva Edison and Nikola Tesla. The war of the currents between these two, and Nikola Tesla is supposed to have defeated Edison in this. So these are the important developments. Are you there with me, all of you? Yeah, electricity. You have the the power of electricity, which was invented in the second phase. Okay, now, so here we'll come to the other aspects of the industrial revolution. Understand this, particularly in Britain. Now, what happened in the first phase? 1780s to 1850. Right, this is the first phase, which happened only in Britain. Now, what we notice is, I told you yesterday's class, the enclosure movement took place. You have remarkable developments in the agricultural sector. She experienced an agricultural revolution, and excess laborers from the rural areas came away to the cities and towns of England in search of employment. They had lost their lands. The village common lands had disappeared. They had sold away all their cattle and sheep, etc., and they came away to the nearby towns and cities in search of employment. The workers. So, and you have factories located in the towns and cities of England. Factories were located there. So they went to those areas where you have factories. And workers came to congregate around the factories. Understand this? If this is a factory, okay, so people are settling around the factory. They're all living around here. So here, as a result, you see, people are living around the factory. Easy to go to the factory and come back. The workers, no, the factory owners never gave them any accommodation. So the workers had to make their own arrangements, boarding and lodging arrangements. So they preferred to stay around the factories. Now what happened is, suddenly population increased. Population around the factories. Population around the factories increased because you have thousands and lakhs of workers coming from all parts of England to work in those factories and towns of England, cities and towns of England. So population of these cities and towns increased, particularly people were concentrated around the factories. So as a result, please understand, we are talking about early days of industrial revolution, So here what happened is you have pollution happening. Pollution of what? You might wonder. Obviously, pollution of air, soil, and water. Pollution of air, soil, and water happened. So people are living around the factories. There is no underground drainage system. There is no toilet. There are no toilets, right? So whatever they eat, and the leftovers are strewn around on the streets. So what happens is the rats will multiply, and rats multiply, and they might contaminate the food chain where the food is stored by the workers. So they might urinate on the food stored or the provision stored, or they might also the food might get mixed up with the rat feces. So what happens is it gets into the food chain of gets into the food chain, and the workers might consume contaminated food. So many people began to die because of pollution of air, water, soil. So how did the soil get polluted? Obviously, the effluents, the industrial effluents are directed towards a lake or a drain nearby, and then the soil gets contaminated. The air gets contaminated, polluted, because the smoke is going into the air. So people are breathing that noxious air, the poisonous air. And water bodies also got contaminated because people are answering nature's call outside. So the soil gets contaminated, the water gets contaminated, and many people began to die. Many people began to die, particularly around the factories. And this resulted in, alarm bells ringing in England, because and then the scientists and the researchers got down to business. So people were wondering why people are dying around the factories. So that resulted in course of time. This did not happen overnight. It happened over a period of time. So people began to test the soil, test the water, test the air, and they understood. And hitherto unknown diseases came into existence. Unknown diseases like cholera, like TB, typhoid, okay, um, um, etc. So which were never there till now. So all this is all because of people congregating around the factories and pollution of air, water, and soil. This is number. And of course, plagues took place. Plagues happened, and thousands and lakhs of people died because of outbreak of plagues. And then gradually, over a period of time, they understood what is causing the pollution of, say, soil, air, and water. So they began to plan their cities in a better manner. They began to have underground drainage systems, a better sewerage system, waste disposal system, right? Then you have refrigeration happening, mechanical refrigeration. Once it was invented, they began to use that. And of course, the population came to be dispersed. That's why you see in European countries, or even for that matter in America, the population is dispersed. Of course, there are thickly populated cities also like London, but then otherwise, they have learned from the mistakes which they had committed earlier in the early part of the Industrial Revolution. So this is one aspect of the Industrial Revolution. Then secondly, please understand, people came away from the villages to the cities in search of employment. Now, many of them have come leaving their families behind. So you have the males from the villages have come away to the cities and towns of England, and they might have left their families behind, wife and children behind. So there is a lot of tension, in the family, because the father is somewhere else, mother is with the children, or many times they took their families also along. Now, the factory owners preferred to employ women and children. They prefer in the initial stages, they preferred to employ women and children in these factories. Why? Because they have less bargaining power. Women and children can be easily, forced to accept whatever wages the factory owner is paying them. So they have less bargaining power compared to the males who might mobilize themselves and maybe even beat up the factory owner. So here women and children were preferred, and that resulted in exploitation of women and children by these factory owners. Many of the children were, you see, there was no minimum. What was the state of affairs during those days? In the early part of the Industrial Revolution, there were no trade unions. There were no trade unions, right? Then you don't have a minimum working hour. Minimum working hours were not there. Minimum working hours. So workers were made to work for 18 hours, 20 hours in a day. And even children as young as 8 years, 10 years, were made to work 16 to 17 hours in a day. So you have no minimum working hours. You have no recess period, break, like a tea break or a coffee break, no lunch break. So you don't have a recess period, right? No weekly holidays. There were no weekly holidays, right? Then you did not have accident relief. They did not have an insurance. Workers did not have an insurance. Even voting rights they did not have. They also did not have voting rights. So these are all the problems which the workers had to face in the initial stages. And women and children were preferred by the factory owners because they have less bargaining power. And many times, only children were preferred. Only children were preferred by the factory owners. I'll tell you why. You see, let us say this is a factory. Imagine this is a factory. This is the floor of a factory. and a factory owner can install, let us say, only 5 machines, one here, one here, one here, and one here, and one in the middle. Okay, so let us say he can only install about 5 machines in this factory floor. Now, the factory owner wants to make more profits. His aim is to make more profits. So what he did is he will install extra machines. You see, he'll tightly pack extra machines, right, like this, and then he will employ children to run those machines. So children will be working in these factories. Since they are, they're built small, they can easily move between the machines. They can easily move between the machines. That's why children may prefer. And moreover, you can beat up the children, force them to work for long hours, so 16 to 18 hours. So many of the children lost their limbs. Their hair might get caught in the machines. They might slip off on those machines, out of tiredness, exhaustion. They might lose their limbs, and many of them also lost their lives. So these are some of the problems in the initial stages of the industrial revolution. But slowly, you have the workers mobilizing. Workers mobilizing. You have socialist ideas spreading into England also under people like Robert Owen, etc. So you have socialist ideas spreading into England, and workers began to mobilize. So they demanded. So they established trade unions. You have the government chipping in, the government interfering, so that the workers can have a better and a safer work environment. Labor relations were brought in, labor laws were brought in. So these happened over a period of time. Initially, please understand, many of the workers, they attacked the factories and they broke up the machines. They broke up the machines. Why did they break up the machines? You might wonder. Because they blamed the machines for they having lost their jobs. For example, let's say you have a sharing machine. You have a sharing machine where you share, remove the wool from the sheep. Earlier, it was done manually. Now you have a machine which will easily cut off or shear the wool from the sheeps. Now, all those people who were experts at shearing sheeps, they lost their jobs, and they blamed that shearing machine. And they would attack the factory and break up all those machines where those shearing machines were manufactured. So we have somebody called Ned Ludd. You have a person called Ned Ludd. This is called Luddism, a movement in England called Luddism. So Ned Ludd, along with some of his supporters, they argued with the government. They told the government that machines have taken away the jobs of these people. Therefore, they should be compensated. They should be given alternative employment, or they should be compensated adequately so that they can maintain their families. These workers who have lost their jobs because of the machines can maintain themselves and their families. Okay, so this is one part of the story of the Industrial Revolution. So you have the Industrial Revolution, which resulted in even the communality of the village breaking up. Communality. They were all living in the village community. Let's say there are 8 brothers. Imagine there are 8 brothers. Okay, they're all living together in the village, in the same household, along with their families. Now, so many of these brothers have lost their lands. A rich farmer, bought their lands, and they lost all their money. So what happened is they went away to the nearby towns and cities in search of employment. So the community life of the village broke up. Joint family system broke up, right? And you have nuclear families coming into existence. Families became dispersed. So there was a lot of pressure on the families, for that matter, in that sense. So this is another aspect of the Industrial Revolution. Are you there with me, all of you? Yeah, that is called Luddism. Ned Ludd was a person who fought for the rights of the workers who had lost their jobs because of machines. Okay. Now we'll come back here. We'll look at so you can see on your screen, this is a graphic representation of the progress of the Industrial Revolution. So it first happened in England, cradle of Industrial Revolution, England. Then you see by mid 1800, it spread to other parts of Europe, like for example, France. You see, France, Germany, etc., Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland, that is in orange. Then Then by late 1800s, it spread to Russia, Austria, Hungary, Italy, etc. Then weakly industrialized were these, like Portugal, Spain. So this is the spread of the Industrial Revolution. Now let us look at the factors responsible for the Industrial Revolution in Britain. Why did the Industrial Revolution happen in England first? Let us understand that. First of all, number one, you see, you have the aggregation revolution happening in England. We have looked at it yesterday and today also. We have the aggregation revolution happening first in England. So it generated an aggregation surplus, which provided the required capital for the later day industrial progress. It gave the required money for the later day industrial progress. It provided raw materials, and of course, excess laborers were released from the rural areas, creating a demand for industrial goods. This is number one. Secondly, England had colonies all over the world. England had colonies all over the world. And from these colonies, like India was a colony, America was a colony, 13 colonies were there. So from these colonies, England used to import raw materials to England. And those raw materials will be converted into finished products and resold in the colonies. That's why the saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire. The sun never sets on the British Empire because she had colonies all over the world. So if one part of the earth was dark, another part was having sunrise. You have daytime there in case one part of the earth had night. So colonies also helped in the progress of industrial revolution there, providing raw materials and acting as a ready market. Further, in England, you have coal found almost, coal and iron ore found almost in the same seams. That was another advantage England had, which was very rare for England. In other countries, you have coal found separately, iron ore found separately. But when you dig the earth in England, underneath you find coal as well as iron ore in the same seams. You have coal and iron ore found almost in the same seams. So this is another advantage England had. Further, England enjoyed a labor force that was mobile and skilled. So you have a skilled labor force, and that was made possible because of the Scottish primary education system. You see, England had had what is called Scottish primary education system. Under this, you see, out of 10 people, imagine this, out of 10 people, 6 people in England were already employed in the small scale and cottage industry, small scale industry or cottage industry. And these 6 people were semi-skilled. They were semi-skilled. So 6 were already employed in the small scale and cottage industries of England, while 4 were in the agricultural sector. Whereas in Europe, if you take Europe as here in comparison, out of 10 people in Europe, only 1 person was in the small scale and cottage industry. And to teach advanced skills to somebody who's already working in the cottage industry was not a problem. So you can easily teach him advanced skills. Did you understand? He is semi-skilled, already working in the small scale and cottage industry. You can easily teach him advanced skills. Did you understand? Hello. Something like, let's say you know how to drive a car. I'm giving a hypothetical example. Let's say somebody knows how to drive a car. Now, for him to drive a bus or a lorry, he just has to practice. He knows, where is the clutch, where is the brake, where is the accelerator, where is the gear, etc. Only thing is, he doesn't have to learn all those things newly. He already knows because he knows how to drive a car. He only has to graduate and practice how to drive a bus or a train. So they say a bus or a lorry as such, right? So this is what it is. Already they were semi-skilled, and to teach advanced skills to somebody like that was not a problem. And this was the advantage England had. Then we come to England having adequate transportational facilities. England also by this time developed adequate transportational facilities. We have new methods of making roads and canals. Understand this, please. New methods of making roads and canals. Now, what is this new method of making roads? We have, two people, Thomas Telford and John Macadam. They developed a method of making roads which the world is following. We are all following the method developed by these people, people like Thomas Telford and John Macadam. And they're called macadamized roads. You see, earlier in England, like in other parts of the world, you had kacha roads. So we had kacha roads. What is kacha road? A mud road. So imagine this is the mud road. This is the mud road. And this was pretty much the case all over the world. Now, these people like Thomas Telford and John Macadam, what is this new method of road building they developed? So they brought huge boulders. Understand this? They brought huge boulders and they placed those boulders, they dumped those boulders on the mud road, giving it a solid base. Right. Then they took smaller rocks. So these are boulders in black. Then they took smaller rocks and they put those rocks on top of those boulders. And then press them up, nicely press them into the ground, right? So it has a solid base. Then they took gravel, right? And then they put the gravel on the rocks. So you have a firm base. And over a period of time, they were able to extract tar and later cement. And they were able to even cement those roads, what we call white topping, or they put tar on the road. So this is the method of making roads, which were first developed in England, simultaneously in America, almost the same time in America. This is called macadamized roads. What we call tar road is actually the technical term is macadamized roads, developed by John Ludo Macadam. Did you understand? So this is a new method of road building developed in England. Then we have a great canal building mania going on in England. Let me explain this, very interesting. Understand this. We have a great canal building mania going on in England. Now, one of the advantages which England had was that it was crisscrossed by rivers and natural canals throughout the country. So you have rivers and natural canals crisscrossing the country, and these were tapped. These were exploited by the people of England. Now, many of these rivers connected the mines. They were connecting the mines to the ports, right? So, here mines to the ports, these rivers are connected, and they also built canals, artificial canals. You have a great canal building mania that way. You see here on your screen, this is a canal mania between 1790s to 1810. Now, let's say there's a rich landlord. Understand this? Imagine this is his property. There's a rich landlord called A, and there is a canal which is passing through his territory. This is the canal. Imagine this is the canal passing through his territory. This is the canal passing through his territory. And this canal is connecting to a port or a town or a mine. Right? It's a natural canal. And it is passing through his private property. And people have to use this canal. They have to carry goods, right, or raw materials, etc., to the city or to the port or to the mine, etc. Now, what this man would do is, if he was an enterprising person, and people in England were very enterprising, business-minded, he will charge rent on these boats. He will charge rent on whoever uses his stretch of the canal. From here till here, whoever is using his canal, he will charge a certain amount of money as rent. So the people who are plying those boats will pay rent to that man called A, and then they will use the canal. And let us say this man has a sharp brain. He's a businessman. What he will do is he will widen the canal. So if the canal is this width, is of this width, what he will do is he will make it of this width, right? He will increase the width of the canal. He will dredge it, make it deeper and wider, so that more boats can ply on that canal, so that he can charge more taxes from them. Did you understand what I just now told you? So this is the great canal building mania which took place in England. Naturally, she was having rivers and canals, and many of the people, added extra canals or to the rivers so that they can make more money out of it. So this is a canal building mania going on in England. Further, we have the English church separating itself from the Roman Catholic Church. Remember the marriage of Henry VIII. Henry VIII married his wife's maid, that is Anna Boleyn. This was in 1532, right? And he converted England into a Protestant country. The Anglican Church was born. So basically, it was a Protestant church. So what happened? The Roman Catholics came to be persecuted in England. So whatever property was there with the Roman Catholic Church was seized by the government. Almost one-fourth of the national resources were brought under productive use. So all that wealth of the church with the Roman Catholic Church, including the lands, were put for further productive use. Hello, are you able to relate to whatever I'm telling you? Hello, all of you? Can you raise your hands? See, this is, I hope it is interesting. I know there are no wars here, no plots here, right? No diplomacy here, but then this is a peaceful revolution happening. I hope you're enjoying the topic. Anyway, we'll come back here. Seventh point, Ankita, I told you, England became a Protestant country under Henry VIII. So Roman Catholics came to be persecuted. And whatever property was there with the Roman Catholic Church came to be seized. That almost one-fourth of the national resources, which were put into further productive use. This is another point. Then we come to, you know, in England, one more aspect of this industrial revolution is, one more aspect is that, thank you, Hari. Sixth point, I have already told you, sixth point, which is sixth point, you have a great canal building mania in England, and also England developed better methods of road making. And that also aided in industrial revolution because raw materials can be easily transported, finished goods can be sold on those, with those roads, using those roads and canals. Now, then of course you see in England, the now you're rich. You see, you have nobility in England. You have the lords, you have monarchy, though it was a parliamentary system of government. You have nobles who are very, very rich. They were the traditionally rich people of England. Now, a commoner, understand this, a commoner like you and me, if he wants to make it big, now how does he make it big? So, by doing business, a commoner with a sharp brain, if he wants to make it big, he has to start a business. And you have very good, opportunities in England to start a business, particularly for a commoner. How was this possible? Because of the Bank of England. So, Bank of England had been established as early as 1694. And let's say there's a commoner called A. He's got a small house, right? He will go to the Bank of England, keep that house as security, and he'll borrow money from the bank. And the bank would give him money, give him loans at a very comfortable rate of interest. So, taking that money, taking that loan, this commoner might start a business. And let's say the business takes off, the business becomes successful, and he's able to make a huge amount of money. And suddenly, he has become the talk of the town. He's become the talk of the town. Suddenly, he has become very, very rich because of his own enterprise, right? And his own brains and hard work. So he will, let us say, in an upmarket area, a very posh area, he'll buy a house. Okay. So what happened is many of the traditionally rich people of England easily welcomed such middle classes. That was another aspect in England, right? You have the rising middle classes absorbed in the higher social classes. So let us say I told you this A, commoner, he might buy a house, youngster still in his, let us say in his late 20s or early 30s or, mid 30s, and he has become a very rich man. A rich noble might want to give his daughter in marriage to him because he's a promising young man. He's already proved himself because of his hard work and capacity. And, they were easily absorbed by the richer classes, such middle class people. That was another aspect. Then in England, the agricultural surplus and the surplus wealth was not in the hands of those people who use it for conspicuous consumption. What was the case in France? France had a monarchy and a feudal system of government. So whatever taxes were collected from the people, from the common people of France, was used for luxurious purposes, luxurious living by the people of France. So there's a saying, if you want to earn more money, you have to invest money. If you want to earn more money, you have to invest money. Money breeds money. So here, the agricultural surplus and the surplus wealth of England was not in the hands of those people who will use it for conspicuous purposes, luxurious living. They, in fact, the extra wealth was there in the hands of those people who will use it for further productive purposes. So that person has a factory, he might open one more factory with the money he has. Okay, he will not blow it off or spend it off in luxurious living. This was another aspect about England. Then we have the Bank of England. I already told you. You have the Bank of England, which had branches all over the country, and people were given loans on easy terms, on easy rates of interest, and that also aided the Industrial Revolution. Further, you see England. You see England was experiencing Industrial Revolution, and England continued to fight her wars. You have the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon was determined to fight against England and defeat her. So England continued to simultaneously industrialize and continued to fight her wars. Whereas in France, what happened is the Industrial Revolution had got stalled. The Industrial Revolution had got stalled. She did not continue her Industrial Revolution. France, she was only manufacturing luxury goods, and you have very less buyers for luxury goods. You cannot make profits out of it. So the French Revolution resulted in the Industrial Revolution getting stalled in that country. And because of that reason, it was easy for England to defeat Napoleon in France. So in fact, the Industrial Revolution enabled England to industrialize further and also defeat France. Did you understand? Defeat Napoleon. Because she continued to industrialize, she continued to sell those goods which she was manufacturing, those factories. She was making profits. With those profits, she was able to have a better army, a stronger army. She was able to buy more weapons and also defeat France, right? And other countries also. This was another thing. Then you see, by the 17th century, England had become one country. England, Scotland, Wales, they were one. So England, Scotland, and Wales had been unified. So they were one country. So in this huge area, you have a common law. You can see you have common laws, common currency, and a common market without any restrictions. So common currency, common law, and a common market. That also further fueled the Industrial Revolution in that country. And of course, by the 17th century, most of the people were working in factories, in the offices of England, in the offices, in different capacities, in factories. And at the end of the month, after a hard, after a long month, in the beginning of the first month, they will receive their salary. They will receive their salary, liquid money. They will receive liquid money or salary. And with that money, they went and demanded the goods in the markets. Right? If you observe, if you go to a supermarket like Reliance or some other place, what do you notice in the first week of every month? It is a lot of crowd are there. A lot of crowd is there because people have received their salaries and they have come to do their monthly shopping, monthly rations for their house, whatever they require for the household, to run the household. So same thing happened in England. You have people earning salaries and they went to the market and they demanded goods. So there was a demand for the goods manufactured in the factories of England, and that further fueled the Industrial Revolution. So they began to manufacture more goods because there was a demand for those goods. These are all the important developments in England. And of course, you have the enclosure movement which had taken place. Excess laborers had been released from the rural areas. People had lost their village common lands. Small farmers had lost their lands because they had sold it away to rich farmers, and they had also spent their money. So all these people had come away to the cities and towns of England, creating a huge labor force. And since there were too many laborers, the salaries, the wages they were given were also very less. That also further fueled the Industrial Revolution because you have a huge population of ready workers available in England. So this is the reason why Industrial Revolution happened in England. Are you there with me, all of you? Because you have a giant mega farm which came into existence. It was enclosed. The village common lands, along with the small lands, the lands of small farmers were enclosed. Right? That's why it's called enclosure movement. A giant mega farm came into existence. Yeah. So that is the reason why it came into existence. Now let us talk about the impact of the Industrial Revolution. Let us talk about the impact of the Industrial Revolution. So obviously, it impacted all aspects of life in England, polity, society, economy, etc. So let's talk about it. First of all, you have the economic impact of the Industrial Revolution. So what is the economic impact of the Industrial Revolution? We have the factory system, the coming into existence of the factory system. So machines came to be installed in huge buildings or establishments, which came to be called factories. So the Industrial Revolution inaugurated the modern factory system. Then it also led to tremendous development of internal and international trade. Tremendous development of internal and international trade. I'm sorry. So goods came to be manufactured in the factories. You have division of labor, right? All those things were done, leading to tremendous development of internal and international trade. Further, it led to industrial capitalism, or what is called mature capitalism. Now, what is the meaning of industrial capitalism or mature capitalism? Industrial revolution led to mature capitalism or industrial capitalism. In other words, only a rich person who can own the factors of production can set up a factory. For example, let's say there's a person called A and he is very rich, right? And what are the factors of production? Land, labor, and capital. Land, labor, and capital. So he owns all these three things. He's got a lot of money, so he has bought the land on which he has set up a factory, right? And also he pays the salaries to the workers. So that is the birth of industrial capitalism or mature capitalism. This is number 3. Further, you have the birth of two new classes in English society: the industrial capitalist class and the working classes. And the capitalist class wants to earn more and more profits at the cost of the workers. So that led to exploitation of the workers. Did you understand? So you have unequal distribution of wealth. The purpose of the worker, purpose of the capitalist is to earn more profit at the cost of the workers. So that led to unequal distribution of wealth between the capitalists and the workers. So you can see here the working class and the capitalist class. Further, it led to economic imperialism. What is this economic imperialism? Very simple. Understand this. You see, England was the first country to industrialize. And after England, you have industrial revolution spread into other countries. Like, for example, it spread to Switzerland, it spread to France, right? Germany, Italy, etc. Holland, etc. Now, England already had colonies. England had colonies which served the purpose of markets and raw materials. So from the colonies, she used to get raw materials, and these colonies also acted as ready markets for the finished goods of England. After their unification, Germany and Italy, they were born in 1871, isn't it? After their unification, they also desired colonies. These newly born countries or newly industrialized countries. They thought the best way to earn more profit is to conquer a particular area, either in Africa or Asia, and then exploit the raw materials, extract raw materials from those countries, and those colonies will act as a ready market. So you have competition breaking out between the erstwhile industrial countries and the newly industrialized countries for colonies, protectorates, and spheres of influence. And this is one of the reasons for the outbreak of World War One. This is called economic imperialism. Did you understand what is economic imperialism? Right? So you have colonies, people, in countries wanting colonies, protectorates to serve as protectorates and spheres of influence. They wanted raw materials and ready markets, and they began to fight amongst themselves. And that is called economic imperialism, leading to World War One. Vikram, see, I said you have countries like England, France, Netherlands. They were some of the early industrialized countries, and they already had colonies with them. And then after the unification, that is Italy and Germany in 1871, they were unified. They also wanted colonies. and they began to compete with the erstwhile colonial powers like England, etc. And each of these countries wanted more and more colonies so that they can get raw materials and markets, ready markets. And that is called economic imperialism, which led to bad blood among them. They began to fight for colonies, protectorates, spheres of influence, leading to finally the outbreak of World War I. And that this is called economic imperialism. Okay, did you understand that? Protectorate is where a strong country will give protection to a weak country. So the weak country is dependent on the strong country's protection. That is called protectorate. Though the strong country is not directly ruling over the weak country, but then it is using it as an adjunct. That is the meaning of protectorate. I have already explained it twice, Satyapal. Economic imperialism, right? Now we move on here. Economic imperialism is the newly born countries like Germany and Italy competing with the the erstwhile colonial powers. England had colonies, France had colonies, right? Holland had colonies. For example, France was ruling Indochina, that is Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. Indonesia was ruled by Holland, Netherlands. England was ruling over India, Myanmar, etc. Now, when Germany and Italy became unified, they also wanted colonies. So they began to compete with the erstwhile colonial powers like England, France, etc., for colonies, protectorates, spheres of influence. That's called economic imperialism, leading to bad blood among them, leading to finally World War I. Okay, right? Did you understand, Satyapal? Okay. Then it also led to economic interdependence, international economic dependence. So very simple. What is this international economic dependence? Europe was only manufacturing ready-made goods. So she was manufacturing Europe. And for food and other items, she began to import it from Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, etc. This is called international economic dependence, right? Very simple. So you have Europe becoming heavy importers of meat, wheat, tropical food products from Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, etc. And Europe exported manufactured goods. That is called international economic dependence. Then it also impacted agriculture. Positively, it did impact agriculture. A number of machines were invented in the agricultural sector, tractors, harvesters, threshers. So that further increased the productivity from land and production because you have new machines working on the farm, right? Then along with that, you have along with industry, you have banking, insurance, stock exchange markets, joint stock companies. All these things came into existence, and the monetization of the economy was complete. So the economy became monetized. Okay, banking, insurance, stock exchange, joint stock companies, all these things came into existence. This is the economic impact of industrial revolution. Then we come to the political impact. Did you understand? Anybody? All of you clear here? No doubts. Very simple. Clear? Economic imperialism. Nilanjana says third point. Which is the third point you want? So that is industrial revolution led to the birth of industrial capitalism or mature capitalism. That is only those people who could own the factors of production who had a lot of money. So let us say I have a lot of money with me. I will buy a land. I will set up a factory, and I will also pay my workers salaries and wages. So that is the birth of mature capitalism or industrial capitalism. Only those investors who could own the factors of production set up factories. Okay, right. Then we come to political impact. Political impact is what you have in the political field, the industrial capitalist class. So you have two new classes because of the industrial revolution. The industrial capitalist class, or what is called the bourgeoisie, isn't it? Industrial capitalist class is called bourgeoisie. And the working classes. Workers are called proletariat. So we have two new classes in the society in England. Industrial capitalist class are the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Now the industrial capitalist classes wanted introduction of free trade. They wanted the policy of laissez-faire. Policy of laissez-faire is laissez-faire or free trade. They did not want the government to restrict trade restrict economy. So they wanted the introduction of free trade. This is number one. This is one political impact. They also wanted the introduction of the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. So you have the industrial capitalist class in England who form the core of the middle classes. They form the core. The nobility were very, very rich, the super rich, the lords and the nobles in England. Whereas the industrial capitalist class formed the core of the middle classes, the main middle classes. And they demanded Bill of Rights with the right to property and liberty being given a sacred status. So the right to private property should be recognized by the government. So they demanded Bill of Rights and the right to private property and liberty given a lot of importance. This is number two. And lastly, we have the military superiority of a country, which was directly proportional to its industrial superiority. If a country is industrially superior, by default, she also came to have a strong military. Take the example of Prussia. She rapidly industrialized. And also, as a consequence, militarized. And that is the reason why she was able to win her wars against Denmark, Austria, and France. So, isn't it? And Germany had overtaken England by 1850. Similarly, in northern parts, when the American Civil War broke out between the northern states and the southern states of America had a plantation economy, whereas in the north you have industrialization. So the northern states were able to easily defeat the southern states because of that reason, because they were industrialized. So only if a country is industrialized, she came to be also militarized. So that is another aspect of industrial revolution. Clear? This is the political impact. So industrial capitalist class giving importance to laissez-faire. They wanted free trade, introduction of free trade with no restrictions placed by the government in the economy or on the economy. They wanted the Bill of Rights to be introduced with the right to private property and liberty being given a lot of importance. And lastly, the military superiority of the country came to be dependent upon its industrial superiority. Then let us look at the social impact of the Industrial Revolution. You see, with the Industrial Revolution, we have the nobility losing their importance. So you have feudalism, or the nobility losing their importance. And these two classes became important. That is the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Industrial capitalist class and the working class became important. This is number one. Then number two is people, because of the Industrial Revolution, they were always on the move in search of jobs. So you have people becoming wage earners. And life became very mechanical. So you see, they're going in the morning, they're going to the office, coming back in the evening. Workers, daily wage workers, daily laborers, they are in search of jobs. Okay, so people became wage earners, and people who did not learn the new skills became destitute. Nobody wanted them, and that is called trained incapacity. You see, that is called trained incapacity. Let me explain this part to you. What is this trained incapacity? Let's say I know I'm a worker who's good at embroidery. Okay, so let's say I'm good at embroidery, and I have been an expert embroiderer from many years. Now a machine has been invented, right, which will make beautiful designs, beautiful embroidery designs, and countless designs in a very short period of time. Within 1 hour, that machine can manufacture, let us say, 10,000 pieces of embroidery cloth with various designs. Now, nobody wants me because I will take about 2 days or 5 days or a week to make one embroidery cloth. No? Whereas this machine can do that job in 1 hour, and that to 10,000 pieces. So nobody wants me. So what happens is either I learn a new skill. Maybe I learn a skill where I can run that embroidery machine. If I can run that embroidery machine, then I'll be employed. I may be a skilled embroiderer, but nobody wants me because the machine has taken my job. So therefore, either I learn new skills or I become a destitute. So you have a lot of people becoming destitute because they could not learn the new skills. That's called trained incapacity. This person is trained, but he is incapable of running the or being in the moment because nobody wants him. Did you understand? That is called trade incapacity. So people became destitute for that reason. Most of them were searching for job, going from one place to another place in search of jobs. Right. Then you have the communality of the village breaking up. I told you there were people who were living in villages, in joint families, all the brothers along with the families staying there. But because of the industrial revolution, the the unity of the village or the family got broken up, and you have men becoming rootless. They left their families, or they came away from the village. They settled down in the cities, right? So men became rootless, right? And of course, you have rigorous discipline of factory life or office life. Though the hours of work reduced over a period of time, nowadays you have 8 hour works, 8 hour work, one hour of recess period, that is lunch break, and 8 hour work period. That is the labor law. So number of hours of work reduced definitely, but life became mechanical. Like for example, in the morning, let's say at 8 o'clock, you have the siren of the factory going off, the hooter of the factory going off, and everybody will enter the factory, all the workers. And in the evening, let's say at 3 o'clock, again the hooter goes off, and then everybody get out. So life became mechanical. That's one thing. Then, of course, many of these drawbacks have been overcome in the Western societies with the growth of trade unionism and welfare statism. So, I told you, you have factory owners exploiting the workers, women, and children in the initial stages, but then slowly you have the workers agitating for better reforms, and the state stepped in, and then they allowed establishment of trade unions. You have the concept of welfare state also coming into existence. So, all these things happened, right? It also encouraged scientific investigation. You see, the profession of engineers became very important because of the industrial revolution. You have so many specialization in engineering, isn't it? Chemical engineering, electronics and communications, civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, so on and so forth. The profession of engineers became very, very important because of industrial revolution. However, one of the drawbacks of the industrial revolution is, of course, the pollution problem. The pollution problem, rapid depletion of non-renewable resources. So we have exploited the environment for a much more comfortable life, but at the cost of polluting the environment, soil, water, air. And we are all suffering from this problem nowadays, right? So you have the socialist movement, the mixed state economy, democratic socialism. These are all ideas to reduce the ill effects of industrial revolution. The ill effects of industrial revolution, to minimize that socialist movement, right? So that the workers, you have a larger distribution of the wealth of the society amongst the people. So that's called socialism, as you know. The socialist movement began, and of course, you have mixed state economy and also democratic socialism. These are all efforts to reduce the ill effects of industrial revolution. Clear? Can you raise your hands? Are you clear? Yeah, see, whether you make notes or not, Uma, the whole point is you should be able to write answers, right? So if you understand the topic, you make bullet points. PPTs are enough, I suppose, for this topic. I have told it like a story. So go back and read one book. Well, just read one book, and whatever missing links you might have in your mind, that gets sorted out, and then you can write answers. You make some bullet points, flow charts. Use all that flow charts, bullet points, etc. That will help you to write better answers. And yeah, so unless you write answers and send it across, I will not be able to know. I'll not be able to answer your doubts. You should be reading up and then making points and then writing answers and sending it across. So that at least 2 3 answers you send, then I'll be able to evaluate and give my feedback whether you're doing the right thing or not. Okay, we move on. Let us look at other aspects of the industrial revolution. Can we finish this topic before we go for a break? Yeah. Yeah, I will, Brajneet, I will. When I have said something, I will definitely do it. Just give me a few days, I will do it. Scanned copy of Jain and Mathur. Right, now we'll come back. Impact of the Industrial Revolution on Europe. Let us look at this. Impact of the Industrial Revolution on Europe. So you see, other European countries became industrialized. After England, other European countries became industrialized, like Belgium, France, Germany, etc. Even the British dominions, America. What are British dominions? British dominions means Canada, These are British dominions: Canada, New Zealand, Australia. These are all British dominions. So they also became industrialized. This is number one. Number two is further increase in the population of Europe. Understand this, very interesting. Because of the Industrial Revolution, population of Europe increased. Now, what is the connection here? Understand this. You see, in 1750, population of Europe was 140 million. Right? By 1914, that is by the beginning of the First World War, population of Europe had increased to 463 million. Now, how did the population of Europe increase? You see, initially, I told you, as part of the lecture, I told you, initially many people died because of the congregation of people around the factory settlements. Pollution of air, water, soil, hitherto unknown diseases, fungal diseases, viral diseases, all those things came into existence and people died. Malaria, of course, malaria is different. TB, diphtheria, typhoid, tuberculosis, okay, waterborne disease, diseases, air, diseases because of pollution of air, etc. All those things happened, and many people died. But then later, you have the scientists, the researchers, doing research, um, uh, you know, analyzing the water quality, soil, air, etc. And they were able to find out that this is the reason that why people are dying. The water has got contaminated, and they tried to find antidotes for that to kill those germs either in the soil or in the air, in the water. And also you have plagues being contained. Right, the cities are planned in a better manner. You have underground drainage system, piped water supply, then food was preserved in a better manner. Refrigeration coming into existence. Population came to be dispersed. So what happened is city lives became pleasurable. People were not dying. They had learned through the mistakes in the initial part of the Industrial Revolution. So here, please understand, you have increased food, clothing, shelter, and other necessities of life because of the Industrial Revolution. Famines became a thing of the past. You see, famines became a thing of the past. In Europe, you're talking about. We're talking about Europe. So you see, this is impact of industrial revolution on Europe. So famines in Europe became a thing of the past. And even if a famine occurred, they will bring food. They're able to supply food from surplus areas to deficit areas. And then you have advances in medical science and public health. So vaccination, then antiseptics, isolation of patients with infectious diseases. For example, when COVID happened, what were we told? We should not congregate in a closed environment. No, there should be free flow of light and air. So one of the methods of containing COVID was that, so that we are isolated. So if somebody contracts a disease, you isolate that person so that that person doesn't spread the disease to somebody else. So these are all methods they devised, and that as a result the population increased. Now please understand, death rate decreased drastically. Death rate was curtailed because of advancement in medical science. The birth rate remained the same. Birth rate remained the same. Death rate drastically declined, and that's the reason why the population increased. Okay, and why death rate declined? Because of advancement in medical science, and also better city planning, better city planning. Further, we have increased urbanization. You see, people prefer to live in cities, even though that's the case. But it happened with the Industrial Revolution. By 1930, 20% of the world's population, one fifth, 20% of the world's population was living in cities. And even now, we prefer to live in cities. Why? You might go to your village, your ancestral village. Okay, initially, you'll feel so happy. Everything is green and clean. The air is so pure, everything is green, and you feel like staying there for 1 week. But then within 1 or 2 days, you start getting bored and you want to come back. Most of us, we want to see the hustle and bustle of city life. So life became city centered because of the Industrial Revolution. And why cities were preferred? I told you, pure water, assured supply of food, perfection of centralized sewerage and waste disposal systems, prevention of contagious diseases. Because of all these reasons, people prefer to live in cities than in villages. So you have increased urbanization because of Industrial Revolution in Europe. Then we have initially exploitation and social disruption. initial stages, we have all these things happening because of industrial revolution in Europe. Tenant farmers were dispossessed. I told you, you have people working on the land of a landlord. So what has the landlord done? He has taken away he wants to improve his production and productivity. So he wants to make a giant mega farm. So he'll send away all the tenants. So tenant farmers became dispossessed. They lost their lands or their rights over the lands. Weavers and craftsmen were wiped out because machines took their place. People became destitute. People who did not learn the new skills became destitute. And women and children were the worst exploited. They were the most exploited in the initial stages of the Industrial Revolution. I have given you the reasons. So, and you see, general prosperity was absorbed at the top. The Industrial Revolution did not help everybody, did not benefit everybody. The rich became richer. The rich became richer. You see, for example, in England, between 1911 and 13, 60% of the wealth was in the hands of less than 5% of the population. 60% of the wealth of England was in the hands of less than 5% of the population of England. So the rich became super rich. They became richer. There was a slight improvement in the condition of the middle class. The position of the middle class increased. It improved. Definitely, it improved. So they were able to afford better housing, food, better education for their children. So all these things happened. But the poor remained where they were. The poor remained where they were. They were living in crowded tenements, small rooms, right? They ate the same monotonous diets, the same food. If they're eating bread and jam, they're eating bread and jam all the 7 days in a week. So same type of diets. So this is the impact of the Industrial Revolution on Europe. Okay, now let us look at the impact of the Industrial Revolution on the non-European world. On the non-European world. Number one, we have the political domination of Europe over Asia and Africa. Look here, please, on your screen. Political domination of Asia and Africa by Europe. So Europe came to dominate Asia and Africa. Prior to 1763, why 1763? End of the 7 Years' War. So before the 7 Years' War, 7 Years' War came to an end by the Treaty of Paris, isn't it? 1763. Europeans had few footholds in Africa and Asia. But then post 1870, you have new imperialism. So that is once Germany and Italy became unified, Germany and Italy, these newly established countries demanded colonies. They wanted colonies for themselves. They wanted protectorates, spheres of influences. They wanted colonies for what purpose? As investment outlets, raw materials and markets. So you have competition amongst these newly established countries with the erstwhile colonial powers. England, Spain, Netherlands, France, they were all the the earlier colonial powers. They had colonies with them. England and Germany and Italy did not have colonies. They also wanted colonies. And that led to what is called economic imperialism, competition for colonies, protectorates, spheres of influence. Then number two is mass migration happened. Mass migration from Europe to the New World. You see, understand this please. Why did Europeans decide to go to the Americas? When I say Americas, I mean the North, Central, and South America. The Americas. And as you know, they were called the New World. Now, because of the Industrial Revolution, population of Europe increased. So you have a lot of people living in the towns and cities of England. And many people did not like it. Many of the Europeans did not like it because their population in their cities has suddenly increased. Therefore, those who could afford or had the inclination, they migrated to the New World because you have Americas were sparsely populated, very less population in any part of the Americas, North, Central, and South. And the migration also was aided by improvement in transport and communication. You have ships, steamships had come into existence, railways had come into existence, aeroplane had come into existence. So therefore, they were able to easily move away from Europe to the Americas. You see here, sharp increase in the population of Europe. So migration happened because of that reason, availability of transport and communication. And from 1763, we have emigrations to the Americas and the British dominions. British dominions, as I told you, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So for example, you see on your screen, from Great Britain, people migrated to USA and the British dominions. From Italy, they preferred to go to USA and Latin America. Germans went to USA, Argentina, and Brazil, and the Spanish and the Portuguese went to Latin America. This is called Europeanization of the New World. Europeanization of the New World. Europeanization of the Americas. Then we have political control over uncivilized parts of the earth. What do you mean by uncivilized parts? That is the in terms of the from the perspective of Europeans, Asians, Asia, and Africa were uncivilized. So what is called white man's burden? White man's burden. So Europeans, they decided to rule many parts of Asia and Africa on the ground that people in Asia and Africa are still living in the medieval times, hence uncivilized, and therefore we should rule over them and take them out or bring them into the light of civilization. Rule over them and show them the light of civilization. So this is called political domination or political control over uncivilized parts of the earth. Even South America, where the Spanish ruled. Okay, so you have the actual reason is, of course, you have a lot of raw materials in Asia, Africa, jute, cotton, rubber, various metals, etc. So you have Europe dominating major part of the world. One continent dominating major part of the world. Europe was dominating major part of the world. That is Asia and Africa being ruled by Europe. Then they also safeguarded European investments. How did they safeguard their investments, these Europeans? Through military missions. For example, training local armed forces. Look here, what did the British do in India? British established a Sepoy army, isn't it? They established a Sepoy army in India where all the officers were Britishers. The officers were British, whereas the soldiers were Indians. So this is called training local armed forces. At the same time, they also established a police force. Okay, where officers were all officers were Britishers and the staff were Indians. So they established military missions, trained the local armed forces, financial missions, that is, they supervise and control local finances, and they gave extraterritorial and capitulatory arrangements. That is, special privileges were given to Europeans residing or doing business in these areas. So regarding the last point, please understand. For example, I'll give you the example of railways in India. So when we talk about railways, we have something called minimum guaranteed scheme, or rather guaranteed, minimum guaranteed scheme. Minimum. What is this minimum guaranteed scheme introduced by the British? Those days, we had private railways in India. Private railways were there. So a rich person can fund laying the railway line, railway tracks, right? So the British told British entrepreneurs, the British government in India told the British business people, you come and invest in development of railway lines in this country. We will guarantee you a minimum profit. You will definitely not make a loss, but you will earn minimum profit. So because of that assurance, many of the British entrepreneurs, they came to India and they put money here in the development of railways. That's called minimum guaranteed scheme, right? So this is one of the examples of special privileges given to Europeans residing or doing business in areas like Asia and Africa. Did you understand? This is about the impact on the non-European world. Are you there with me? Yeah, 5% investment guaranteed by government of British India. Good, Ravi. Thank you. Now, are you there with me, all of you? Which questions to be practiced? Vikram, just hold on. I'll come to that. Are you following? Whatever I'm telling you? First point of impact on non-European world, Ramandeep. So here, in political domination of Asia and Africa by Europe, you see, Europeans had few footholds in Asia and Africa before 1763. But after 1763, you have in major parts of Asia and Europe, Asia and Africa, many of the Europeans coming in, controlling those areas, particularly post 1870, we have new imperialism, right? Many of the Europeans dominated Asia and Africa. Okay. Now let us come to one final point regarding this topic. Whatever I have mentioned here in this slide is not there in any book except the latest NCERT. It is there in the latest NCERT. And this was very, very interesting and eye-opening for all of us. Now, what is this? What does it say? We have a new revision in the date of the Industrial Revolution. Generally, what is the date we give for the first phase of the Industrial Revolution, which was confined to England? This is the date, 1780 to 1820s. 1780 to 1820s. This happened only in Britain, and this is generally the date given. But then the new NCERT says that this is not the date. The date should be 1850 to 1914. The first phase should, which happened in England, should be confined to 1850 and 1914, and not 1760s to 1850. Not 1780 to 1820s. Now let us understand this. You see, why has the date been revised? You see, between 1760s to 1815, 1760 to 1815, during this period, England was trying to do two things at the same time. She was trying to industrialize as well as fight wars. And she could not do both properly. She was trying to industrialize and also fight her wars. England, right, during this period. Now, vital resources, that is men and material resources of England were diverted to the war front. England was fighting wars. So instead of diverting the men and material resources to further industrialization, she was diverting it to the war front so that she can win her wars. Therefore, England could not fully industrialize during this period. But once so you can see here, from 1760 onwards, out of 60 years, 36 years, England was fighting her wars. From 1760 onwards, out of 60 years, England was fighting wars 36 years. Therefore, the full benefits of industrialization could not be received by or reaped by England. She could not reap the full benefits of industrialization. So when did she fully receive the benefits of industrial revolution or industrialization? After these wars ended. You see here, we have America becoming independent in 1783. So we have the American War of Independence ending in 1783. So you remember this? When I did the American Revolution, I told you have the non-importation agreement. Merchants of the 13 colonies passed non-importation agreement. We are not going to import anything from England. Neither are we going to sell anything to England. So this affected England adversely because nobody in the 13 colonies was buying anything from England or neither selling anything to them. But once America became independent in 1783, we have again trade picking up with North America. Trade between England and North America picked up. This is number one. Now, number two is Napoleon was fighting wars with all over Europe, including against England. So England was busy trying to fight and defeat Napoleon. And finally, Napoleon was defeated in 1815 in the Battle of Waterloo. Once Napoleon was defeated finally and imprisoned, again, Europe became shant. Europe became quiet. And England also focused on her further industrialization. And the full benefits of industrialization were reaped by England between 1850 and 1914. Did you understand? So after Napoleonic Wars, production picked up drastically because now all the resources are diverted towards the process of industrialization. Did you understand? So therefore, if there's a question about industrial revolution, do make it a point to mention this part. Make it a point to mention this part. All of you clear? Why the date has been revised from 1780 to 1820s to 1850 to 1914. So England was able to reap the full benefits of industrial revolution during that period, 1850 to 1914. Okay, this is about this topic. Definitely, Vikram, you have to mention the date. Not difficult, 1850 to 1914 to remember. Now, look at this question here on your screen. Latecomer industrial revolution in Japan. Second point, second last point. Second last point is what, Vikram? Nikhil. Second last point is this. After Napoleonic Wars, production picked up drastically. Resumption of trade with North America. I told you, America became independent in 1783, and again you have trade beginning with America, with Americas. Clear? Just hold on, Parveen. I'll give you a break. Just hold on. Now look at this question, please. Look at this question. Latecomer industrial revolution in Japan involved certain factors that were markedly different from what the West had experienced. Analyze. So they are asking, this was a question asked in 2013. I thought it was unfair on the part of UPSC because in 2013 they introduced a section of world history. And from the Industrial Revolution, they suddenly asked about Japanese Industrial Revolution. How is it different from what the West had experienced? Now, let me give you the gist of this topic. The gist of this answer to this question. Latecomer Industrial Revolution in Japan involved certain factors that were markedly different from what the West had experienced. Analyze. Now, look here. So I'll be sharing some extra information by tomorrow morning. You should receive it, okay? Including on Japanese Industrial Revolution in America, then American Civil War. Some topics, extra information I'll be sharing in a Word file, okay? So that will be shared with you. Don't worry. Now look here. What was so unique about Industrial Revolution in Japan? IR in Japan. You see, Japan followed a very what is called a closed door policy. Understand this, please. She followed what is called a closed door policy. That is, she had closed her doors to outsiders, and Japan was very wary of what had happened to China. So we will talk about Chinese Revolution. You see, in another segment. European countries, England, France, Germany, even America, Russia, Japan, they exploited China. That is called the cutting of the Chinese melon. So they, entered into China and economically and financially exploited China to the hilt. And they began to boss over China. In fact, they defeated China in many wars, these European countries. And Japan was very wary of that. She was afraid that the same thing might be done to her by Europeans. So she closed her door to outsiders. Right? She never allowed or wanted to trade with any European country or any, even for that matter, America. That's called closed door policy. But then something happened in 1853. You have in 1853 an American naval officer. His name was Commodore Perry. Commodore Perry. So this Commodore Perry comes with his steamships. He was an American naval officer, Commodore Matthew Perry. So this Matthew Perry enters the Japanese waters with American steamships. The Japanese had never seen steamships, right? And they were impressed. At the same time, afraid of the technological advancement of the West. So they called these ships as black ships. So Matthew Perry came to Japan and he told the Japanese, we will give you one year time. I'll give you 1 year's time. You open your doors to trade to the outsiders. You open your gates or your country to trade with outsiders. Otherwise, we will declare war against you. So he threatened Japan and gave them 1 year to think whether they would like to go to war or open their gates for outsiders to trade. And in the next year, 1854, again, Commodore Matthew Perry came to Japan with his steamships. And the Japanese had now decided that they will want to trade with outsiders. So we have a treaty which was signed called the Treaty of Kanagawa. The Treaty of Kanagawa. And through this Treaty of Kanagawa, Japan opened her doors to outsiders, outside countries for trading purpose. Now, we have something called the Meiji era in Japan. The Meiji era, or what is called Enlightened era. Enlightened era, which happened in Japan. Japan, you see, was politically fragmented, ruled by warlords called shoguns. So you have shoguns or warlords ruling various parts of Japan. And we have a particular warlord called the Tokugawa shogunate, which was running Japan. That was the most powerful among the warlords, the Tokugawa shogunate. Now, in the year 1868, all the shoguns, all the warlords of Japan, decided to resurrect their emperor, bring back their emperor with full authority. So in 1868, we have the resurrection of the Japanese emperor called Mutsuhito. Mutsuhito. So he was brought back with full powers. So all the shoguns accepted the Japanese emperor as their overlord. And you have Japan experiencing what is called Meiji era from 1868 to 1912 under Emperor Mutsuhito, right, and his government. This is called the Meiji era in Japan. So it was the Japanese government which took the initiative in rapidly industrializing that country. And the industrialization of Japan was her response to the West, because she felt that if she is strong and industrialized, then West will not be able to take advantage of her. So what other countries had experienced, it had taken them hundreds of years to industrialize. But she began her story of industrialization in 1868 with the Meiji era. And by 1920, just in about 60 years, Japan had become one of the top industrialized countries in the world, just in about 60 years. So much so that she had even defeated Russia in 1904, 1905. Russia was the biggest country in the world, Russia. And here you have a tiny Lilliput of a country called Japan defeating the biggest country, a Goliath, in the form of Russia in 1904, 1905. So in 60 years, she was able to rapidly industrialize. And how did this happen? Because of the government. So what the government did is it seized all the factories. You have some factories, cottage industries, small scale industries, and some factories which had been established by the Japanese oligarchs, the rich, the nobles of Japan, and also by these warlords, the shoguns. So government seized all those factories, and they began to modernize and westernize those factories. Now, then you have the emperor Mutsuhito and his queen. They began to wear Western clothes. And looking at the queen and the king, the Japanese people also followed suit. They also began to wear Western clothes. They began to imitate the emperor. Now you have the electric bulb, which was invented by Edison. Now, it had become common in the West. Initially, the Japanese were very reluctant to use the electric bulb. But once they understood the advantages of that, you have the Tokyo Electric Company, which was established. And Japan began to manufacture electric bulbs. Then we have, of course, telegraph, telephone, railways, banks, factories. All these things came into existence in over a period of time, and in a very, very, very short period of time. At the same time, you have something called the Iwakura mission. Iwakura Tomomi. So you have the Japanese oligarchs under their leader called Iwakura Tomomi going on a tour of Europe, England, and America. So all the rich people, the landlords of Japan, the warlords, the erstwhile warlords, they were very, very rich. So they went on a tour of America, Europe, and England. And what was this tour about? This was an educational tour. They studied everything there. They studied the educational systems, how schools function, how the police system functions, how the factories function, how banks function, how zoos function. So whatever they could borrow from these European countries, including America, they introduced that in Japan. And whatever they felt will not suit their country, they rejected it. Okay, they rejected that. And these Japanese oligarchs also sent their children for higher education abroad to America and Europe. So those children stayed with the European families. You have a student exchange program. So students stayed there, Japanese students in the with the families of Europeans or in America with American families. They got their education, and many of them joined jobs there in Europe as well as in America. And Japanese government invited these people, these Japanese intellectuals, to come back and introduce the same in this country, in their country, right? And also you have technical missions invited by Japan. So this happened, and that's the reason why Japan was able to rapidly industrialize within 60 years. Now, Japan had some advantages, natural advantages. She had coal with her, so she had quite a lot of coal reserves with her. So which is a main product required for industrialization and also making steel. So she rapidly industrialized, and also she produced steel with the coal she had. Then she also had a lot of ports, natural harbors. So shipping industry also developed simultaneously in those ports and harbors. The end result of rapid Japanese industrialization was imperialism. Understand this: Japan rapidly industrialized. She began to manufacture goods, and she wanted to sell those goods. Now, Japan also desired colonies. So what she did is, in 1910, she conquered Korea, and then she conquered Manchuria in China in 1931. And in 1937-38, she launched a full-scale attack on China. This is called the Second Sino-Japanese War. So the end result of Japanese industrialization is militarism and imperialism. She wanted to become an imperial power, and she wanted colonies for herself. And when the Second World War broke out, she attacked France in Southeast Asia. She conquered Indochina. She attacked Holland, in Indonesia, and conquered Indonesia. And she also wanting to attack India. So this is the end result of Japanese industrialization. This is what they've asked in the question. This is what you have to write for the answer. I'll share that information with you. Okay. Can we go for a 10 minutes break? We go for a 10 minutes break and come back. Monarch is a king. Oligarchs are those traditionally rich people, oligarchs. So that's called oligarchy, like a tribal oligarchy. All the tribes belonging to a particular clan are the power people who are having power in their hands. Okay. Nikhil, don't worry about it. You go through the extra information, which I'll be sharing in 1 or 2 days, and you'll be able to easily understand. Okay, right. So now it is 19:07. Now that is 7:07. We'll meet at what time? We'll meet at 7:17. Come back in 10 minutes. 7:17. Okay, 7:17. Good evening, everyone. Nikhil, closed door policy. That is, she followed a policy of not opening her doors to anybody, any country. In other words, she had closed her doors to outsiders. Okay, can we start? Thank you, Brajneet. Can we start this new topic, Eastern question? All of you? Are you there? Okay, now let's understand this topic. This topic becomes relevant to understand World War One. Let's try to understand this topic. It becomes relevant to understand World War One. Now look here. What is this Eastern question? What is Eastern question? Now, Eastern question, understand this please, is nothing but the problem that arose in the so-called Balkans. The problem that arose in the Balkans is called Eastern question. Now you might wonder what is Balkans? So Balkan refers to the southeast portion of Europe. It refers to the southeast portion of Europe, right? And we have countries like Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Croatia, Albania, right? So you have these people living in this area, and that's why it's called Balkans. So the problem that arose in the Balkans is called the Eastern question. Now, let us understand this part. You see, I'll show you the map. You see on your screen, what are the Balkans? Balkan is this. You see, this is the Balkans. On your screen, you see here, these are the countries: Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, Bulgaria, Romania, Serbia, Croatia, etc. This is the Balkan map. Now look here. I'll go back to my page. Now, there was one kingdom which was established. So you see, Nikhil Rathore, I have already completed Japanese Industrial Revolution. I have already spoken about it before the break, right? So you will listen to the recorded class, then you'll be able to understand. And then I'll be sharing some information on Japanese Revolution, Industrial Revolution tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So go through that document, you'll understand. Now look here, Eastern question. You see, you have a kingdom which was established in the 13th century. Understand this, please. You have a kingdom established by a person called Osman or Ottoman. So this Ottoman established a kingdom in Asia Minor. What is Asia Minor? Asia Minor is that part of the earth where we have the Asian continent meeting the European continent. Where Asia meets Europe is called Asia Minor. And in this area called Asia Minor, you have a kingdom which was established by a man called Osman. He belonged to the Turkish race. He was a Turk by race. Right. Now, and he was a great warrior. Osman was a great warrior. And this kingdom established by Osman became a military state. What is the meaning of military state? This kingdom was expanding at the cost of her neighbors. So he was waging wars and expanding his kingdom rapidly at the cost of his neighbors. Osman was succeeded by many kings, many emperors. And slowly this kingdom became an empire. This kingdom became an empire. The kingdom was established by Osman in the 13th century. And by the 16th and 17th centuries, understand this, this had become the great Ottoman Turkish Empire. This had come to be called as the Ottoman Turkish Empire. This had become the so-called Ottoman Turkish Empire. right? And it was huge in size. You can see here, this is the Ottoman Turkish Empire on your screen. This is the Ottoman Turkish Empire. It included Balkans, that is, it included the southeast portion of Europe. It included Asia Minor, that is where the Asian continent meets the European continent. It included large parts of Africa, North Africa, like Egypt, Syria, etc. It also included, the Gulf, that is the a large part of the Middle East. It also included a large part of the Middle East, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, etc. So it was a huge kingdom. And at its peak, it also included Vienna, the capital of Austria. The capital of Austria is Vienna. At its peak, it also included that. So the kingdom established by Osman by the 16th and 17th centuries had become a huge empire called the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Within this huge Ottoman Turkish Empire, so imagine this is the Ottoman Turkish Empire. This is the huge Ottoman Turkish Empire. Within this Ottoman Turkish Empire, in the Balkans, that is the southeast portion of Europe, let us say this is Balkans, we have some Christian minorities. We had some Christian minorities who used to follow Christianity. They are Christian minorities. So the Turkish Sultan was a Muslim and his governors were also Muslims. But within the huge Ottoman Turkish Empire, there were some Christian minorities like the Greeks. You have the Greeks, you have the Croats, you have the Albanians, the Bulgarians, etc. And all sorts of atrocities was committed by the Turkish government on these Christian minorities, inviting the anger of European countries, England, France, Russia. They all became angry with what this Turkish government, Ottoman Turkish government, was doing to these Christian minorities. Now, within this huge Ottoman Turkish Empire, there were also some holy places connected with Christianity. There were some holy places connected with Christianity, like Jerusalem and Bethlehem. Now, irrespective of which sect of Christianity, Jerusalem and Bethlehem is sacred to all the Christians, irrespective of which church they are following. So, within the Ottoman Turkish Empire, we also have some Christian minorities, okay, and holy places connected with Christianity. Now, till the Ottoman Turkish government was very strong, the Christian countries, that is, the European countries, England, France, etc., were helpless. They could not come to the assistance of these Christian minorities, the Bulgarians, the Croatians, the Serbians, the Greeks, etc. But in the 18th century, understand this, by the beginning of the 19th century, that is by 1815, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. The Ottoman Turkish Empire had collapsed and it was only confined to a very small area, right? And it had become very, very weak. The governors, the Turkish Sultan was there, and his governors were trying to break free from the control of the king. They wanted to assert their independence. So by 1815, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. It was called the sick man of Europe. So once the Ottoman Turkish Empire became weak, we have these European countries who began to interfere in this area, in the Ottoman Turkish Empire. They had conflicting interests. They had selfish interests. They said that they want to help their Christian brethren, the Christian minorities in that area, but not so. They had other selfish interests. So who are the countries who began to interfere in this area once the Ottoman Turkish Empire became weak by the beginning of the 19th century? We have countries like England. So England interfered in this area. We have France interfering in this area, right? We have Austria, we have Russia, and also we have Germany and Italy. After their unification, they also began to interfere in this area. So Ottoman Turkish Empire became weak. Once it became weak, you have the governors working under the Sultan, wanting to break free and achieve their independence from the control of the Sultan. That is number one. Number two, European countries had conflicting interests. They had selfish interests. They began to interfere in this area. Okay, what are those conflicting interests? What are the selfish interests of each of these European countries? We will discuss in a moment's time. And thirdly, we have these Christian minorities, the Croats, the Bulgars, the Greeks, the Serbians, the Bulgarians, Romanians, etc., who wanted to become free. They wanted to become free from the control of the Ottoman Turkish Sultan and achieve their independence. The principles of the French Revolution had also influenced these people, and they wanted to break free because now the Turkish government has become weak. All these things led to a very complicated question called the Eastern Question. Did you understand? All these aspects led to a very complicated question called the Eastern Question. And the developments in this area, in the Balkans, led to some wars. Understand this. What are the wars it led to? It led to wars between Turkey and Egypt. You have wars between Turkey and Egypt, wars between Russia and Turkey. You have the Crimean War. We have the Crimean War which took place. Then we have the Russo-Turkish War, war between Russia and Turkey, the Russo-Turkish War. And finally, the developments in this area was the immediate reason for the outbreak of World War I. The developments in this area, in the Balkans, was the immediate reason for the outbreak of World War I. And therefore, this topic becomes important to understand. Right? Everything is not important. I'll tell you what to remember at the end of this topic, but this is the gist of this topic. Did you understand, all of you? Now, over a period of time, like the Mughal Empire became weak, the Mauryas became weak, the Guptas became weak, they also became weak. A series of weak rulers, weak policies, incapable rulers. So it became weak. Right? Did you understand? Did you understand this part? Yeah, it is the Ottoman Empire, Ottoman Turkish Empire, Ramandeep. You're right. So a number of wars took place in this area. Wars between Turkey and Egypt, the Crimean War, the Russo-Turkish War, war between Russia and Turkey, and finally, the developments in this area became the main reason for the outbreak of World War I. So this is the introduction to this topic and the gist of this topic. So the Eastern question, right? Now, one more thing. I want to tell you one more thing before I start this topic proper. I told you these are the countries which got involved in this area: England, France, Russia, Austria, Germany, and Italy. They wanted to take advantage of a weakened Ottoman Turkish government. Now, whenever Russia got a foothold in this area, whenever Russia was able to conquer a few territories in this area, all the European countries joined together. England, France, Austria, Germany, they all joined together and snatched away the gains of Russia. They neutralized the gains of Russia. Right? Remember this part, and you will see how it happened in the process during the course of this particular topic. So I repeat, whenever Russia got a foothold in this area or gained some territories in this area, other European countries joined together and neutralized Russia's gains. Russia ultimately got so fed up that she stopped interfering in this area. She had certain reasons to get a foothold in that area. But whenever she was stopped, ultimately what happened is she withdrew from the Balkans. She stopped interfering in the Balkans and she began to focus upon the Far East and Asia. She began to focus upon the Far East and Asia. Right? She wanted to get some territories in Asia and the Far East. And when you do modern India, modern Indian history, you study the foreign policy of the company. You study the foreign policy of the English East India Company. The British interfered in Persia, that is Iran. They interfered in Afghanistan and they interfered in Sindh. They conquered Sindh in 1843 and they fought against the Afghans, the Anglo-Afghan wars. Right? They also interfered in Persia. This is because of a British fear of a Russian advancement towards India. There's a connection between world history or this topic and modern Indian history. Here, please understand, the British in 1843 conquered Sindh because they were afraid that Russia might conquer Persia or Iran, and from Iran they will conquer Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan they'll come to India and try to conquer India. So they wanted to have a friendly ruler in Afghanistan. That's why they interfered in Afghanistan. They interfered in Persia for the same reason. And they also conquered Sindh. Sindh is at the mouth of the Arabian Sea, isn't it? The Sindh River comes and joins the Arabian Sea. And Sindh is now in Pakistan. So if they conquer Sindh, and you know that, Sindh, the Amir of Sindh, the King of Sindh, had a subsidiary treaty with the British. He had already accepted the overlordship of the British, and he was paying a subsidy. Even then, in 1843, the British conquered Sindh because they were fearful of a Russian possible advancement. If Russia attacks India, then the British can move their navy to the mouth of the Sindh, to the the where the Sindh joins the Arabian Sea, and from there they can in a better manner tackle the Russians. This is the foresight of the Britishers. So this topic also becomes relevant to understand that part. Did you understand? So we'll come back here. Now on your screen, I have given you the gist. You can see here on your screen. This is the huge Ottoman Turkish Empire, and see this box here, please. Look at this box here. It so beautifully explains. See, empire boundary in 1807. And then you have the gradual decline of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. In yellow, you see this yellow, she lost Bessarabia. This one, you see this is yellow. Losses in 1807, 1829. Losses in 1830 and 78. Orange color. See, all this orange went away. Then losses between 1879 and 1915. That brown color, you see northern parts of Africa, including Macedonia, etc. Then losses between 1918 and 23. And finally, Turkey 1924, the yellow part. This is the yellow part, which remained ultimately at the end of the First World War. So this is the gradual decline of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And we will understand this, the problem which arose in the Balkans. This is called the Eastern Question. So I've given you the gist. Look here on your screen. The problems. What is this Eastern Question? Problems of Turkey becoming the sick man of Europe. So problem of Turkey becoming the sick man of Europe is called the Eastern Question. We have the involvement of all these countries in this area: Russia, Austria, England, France, etc. And that led to a few wars. We have wars between Turkey and Egypt, the Crimean War, the Russo-Turkish War, and the developments in this area became the immediate reason for the outbreak of World War I. Right? Now let us understand. What is Eastern Question? Sakshi, I'm answering your question. Look here. European historians divide the eastern regions of the earth into three parts. European historians divide the eastern regions of the earth into three parts. On your screen, we have the Far East. You see, what is Far East? Far East are countries like Korea, Japan, etc. These are the Far East. Middle East, Israel, Palestine, okay, Iraq, Iran, that's Middle East. And Near East. Near East means southeast portion of Europe. Balkans. Near East means Balkan Peninsula and Turkey. Near East means Balkan Peninsula and Turkey. Okay, this is called the Eastern Question. Eastern Question is the Near East. Near East is Balkans and Turkey. So Balkan Peninsula means southeast portion of Europe. And where do you locate it? We have the river Danube in the north. You see, this is the river Danube in the north. In the south, we have the Aegean Sea. In the east, Black Sea. And in the west, Adriatic Sea. So you see on your screen, this is the Balkans. We have the Aegean Sea in the south, Black Sea in the east, Adriatic Sea in the west, and the river Danube is in the north, somewhere here. River Danube in the north. Okay, river Danube. This is the Balkans. And whatever problems arose here is called the Eastern Question. Are you clear till here, whatever I have explained till now? All of you, can you raise your hands? I have given you the gist of it, but we will come back and discuss the details quickly. Now, so I told you, Eastern Question is nothing but the Balkan problem, whatever problem arose in the Balkans. Balkans means southeast portion of Europe. We have Christian minorities living there, Greeks, Serbians, Bulgarians, Albanians, under the Ottoman Turkish rule. And in 18th century, Ottoman Empire declined. So you have the Eastern Question revolving around four problems: decline of the Ottoman Turkish Empire in Europe, the nationalist aspirations of the Balkan people, that is the Christian minorities who wanted to break free from the control of the Turkish government, rivalries of European powers, they had conflicting interests in this area, and divergent interests of the European powers. All these things led to a very complicated problem known as the Eastern Question. So Ottoman Turkish Empire had become weak. You have the minorities, Christian minorities, who wanted to achieve their independence from the Ottoman Turkish government. That is number one. We have European countries interfering in this area because of selfish interests, and they had divergent interests. And of course, you have the rapid decline of the Turkish Empire, creating a very complicated question known as the Eastern question. You see here, this man is Osman to the right of your screen. So just a small background about the Turks. So basically, the Turks were from Central Asia, and in the Middle Ages, they migrated to uh, Asia Minor, that is Mesopotamia, Iraq. They migrated to Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Asia Minor. That is where the Asian continent meets the European continent, and that they had migrated from Central Asia into Asia Minor, and they had adopted the Muslim religion which was prevalent in this area. So the Turks had converted themselves to Islam, and they became the guardians of Islam, and they began to compete with Christian countries, European countries, to spread Islam. So that led to the holy wars, the Crusades. So I told you this. So the Crusades had already begun in 9th century, wars between Christians and Muslims. So in the 13th century, you have Usman establishing a kingdom, and his descendants came to be called as the Ottoman Turks. And this was a military state, expanding at the cost of the neighbors. You see, the Ottoman Turks championed the cause of Islam. They became the champions of Islam, and they began to fight with the Christian countries of Europe to spread Islam. In the 16th and 17th century, the Ottoman Turkish Empire was at its peak. It included all these areas. It included the Balkans, southeast portion of Europe. It included Asia Minor. It included Syria, Iraq, that is Mesopotamia, Arabia, north coast of Africa. But in the 18th century, you have the rapid decline of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. It rapidly declined, and we have the governors who were working under the Sultan wanting to achieve their independence, wanting to assert themselves. And all these things led to a very complicated question called the Eastern question. So in 1815, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. And all these minorities, Christian minorities, wanted to achieve their independence, right? So this is called Eastern question. Clear? So whatever I had explained in the beginning, the same thing is here. Please go through the PPTs, you'll understand better. If you have any doubt, ask me tomorrow. We'll come back here. Let us look at the divergent interests of these European countries. Who are these countries who interfered in this area once the Turkish Empire became weak? We have Russia, Austria, England, France, Italy, and Germany. Understand this, please. What was Russia's interest in this area? First of all, why did Russia interfere in this area? And what was Russia's interest in this area? You see, where is Russia on your screen? You see, this is Russia. This is Russia. And why did Russia interfere in this area is the question. Now look here. Russians follow the Orthodox Catholic Church. They follow the Orthodox Catholic Church. So they are Orthodox Catholic Christians, right? And all the Christian minorities in the Ottoman Turkish Empire follow the same church. They are also Orthodox Catholic Christians. So Russia was behaving as the big brother to all the Orthodox Catholic Christians in that area. Further, Russians belong to the Slav race. They belong to the Slav race. Even those Christian minorities within the Ottoman Turkish Empire belong to the Slav race. So Russia was behaving as the big brother to all the Orthodox Catholic Christians in the Ottoman Turkish Empire, as well as big brother to the Slavs. Now, earlier she had controlled the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. Russia was controlling the Baltic Sea. You have the Baltic countries of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. So they are called the Baltic countries because they are next to the Baltic Sea. So during the period of Peter the Great, she had conquered or controlled, she was controlling the Baltic Sea. And then later under Catherine the Great, one of their tsarinas, one of their rulers, she had also to come to control the Black Sea. So she was controlling the Baltic Sea and the Black Sea. Now, why was Russia interested in this area, in the Balkans? Because she wanted access to the Mediterranean Sea. You see on your screen, this is Russia here. Where is Mediterranean Sea? Mediterranean Sea is here below. You see this? This is Mediterranean Sea. And how can Russia gain access to the Mediterranean Sea? She wanted to trade with other European countries through the Mediterranean Sea. You have European countries around the Mediterranean Sea. She wanted access or a foothold in this area so that she can access the Mediterranean Sea, through which she can trade with other European countries. And therefore, she wanted to control the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles. You see, these are the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles. I put another map here. You see here on your screen. These are the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles. If she controls the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles, Russian ships from the Black Sea can enter the Straits of Bosphorus, then come like this, enter the Dardanelles, and then access the Mediterranean Sea. So she wanted to control the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles, and she wanted a foothold in the Balkans for that reason, so that she can access the Mediterranean Sea and thus trade with other European countries. This is Russia's interest in this area. Number one, Russia wanted access to the Mediterranean Sea through the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles. So she wanted to control the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles. At the same time, she wanted a foothold in this area so that she can act as the big brother to all the Slavs in that area. The Bulgarians, the Romanians, the Croatians, the Albanians, etc. They were all belonging to the Slav race. And they also used to follow Orthodox Catholic religion, just as the Russians also belong to the Slav race, and they also follow the Orthodox Catholic Church. So this is Russia's interest in this area. This is number one. Are you there with me? Are you there with me, Pari? Clear? Did you understand this part? See, I'll tell you something. Students, without understanding world history, they will mug up some points and write, whatever they have mugged up without understanding the topic in detail. And that has been my experience and observation. Now, if they understand, it is easy to write better answers, right? And you're not mugging just like that. I'm not saying you are doing it. I'm telling many people do it because they don't understand the intricacies of world history. They will mug up and just in case a question comes, they'll write, even though that may not be the exact answer. So that I don't want you to do. I hope you're enjoying whatever I'm telling you. These are the topics. I'm doing it in a slow manner, actually. I'm repeating it many times. I've gone a little slow because I understand world history is alien to most of you, almost all of you, rather. Right? Now we'll come back here. This is Russia's interest in this area. She wanted to get a foothold in the Balkans for that reason. Number two, let us come to Austria on your screen. Pari, are you there with me? Clear? This is Russia's interest in this area. Then we come to Austria. What was Austria's interest in this area? Now, where is Austria? You see on your screen? This is Austria. Okay, now the river Danube passes through Austria. This is the river Danube in green color. You see, this is the green color. And the river Danube passes through Austria and enters the Black Sea. So it joins the Black Sea. Austria, during those days, had a very short coastline. That's why I mentioned here earlier. So Austria had a very short coastline. And the only way she could access the sea was through the river Danube. The only way she can access the Black Sea for trading purpose is through the river Danube, which passes through her territory. Austria was afraid that Russia might establish her control over the Danube River. Russia might control the Danube River. If Russia comes to control the Danube River, then she will not be able to access the sea, the Black Sea. Right? At the same time, the Pan-Slav movement, Russia was acting as the big brother to all the Slavs in this area. So she was wary of the Pan-Slav movement pioneered by Russia. So Austria wanted to see that Russia doesn't get a foothold in the Balkans. This is Russia's self-interest, national interest. Did you understand? So Austria did not want Russia to get a foothold in the Balkans. Because if Russia gets a foothold, she'll control the river Danube, and that way prevent Austria from accessing the Black Sea for trading purpose. And the Pan-Slav movement pioneered by Russia may prove detrimental to her interests. This is Austria's interest. Are you there with me, all of you? Are you able to catch me? Can you raise your hands? Are you able to catch me here? Okay. That is very important. Yeah. Okay. So we have discussed Russia's interest, then Austria's interest. Then we come to England. Understand this. What was England's interest in this area? England had commercial interests in the East. England had colonies in the East. For example, India was a colony of England, right? Now, England was afraid that if Russia gets a foothold in the Balkans, if she is able to conquer some territories, including the Straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles, Russia might harm England's interest in the East. She was afraid of that. And once the Suez Canal was constructed, this tension between England and Russia aggravated, because through the Suez Canal, you can easily come to the east. You see on your screen, this is the Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. And this is the Suez Canal. Suez Canal was constructed in 1869. Suez Canal was constructed in 1869. Now, when did you understand when Mahatma Gandhi went to South, when he went to England for law studies, he went like the way Vasco da Gama came, circumnavigating Africa, right? So Suez Canal was not there at that point in time. Suez Canal was built in 1869, and once that was built, it cut short the journey from Europe to the east to India. And once the Suez Canal was built, the conflict or the tension between England and Russia aggravated because Russia can also come quickly to the east, and that's what England was afraid of. If Russia gets a foothold in the Balkans, she might harm her commercial interests in the east. So what was England wanting? She wanted to see that Turkey remains strong. If Turkey remains strong, then Russia will not be able to get a foothold. And if Russia is not able to get a foothold, England's commercial interests in the east are secured. This is England's interest in this area. She wanted to keep Turkey strong and united to maintain the balance of power. This is number three, England's interest. Then you see all countries have national interest. Even India has her national interest, isn't it? India also has her national interest. So here on your screen, we have France. What was France's interest in this area? Why did France interfere in this area? France had commercial interest in the east. You see, just as England had colonies in the east, France had colonies in the east. Like for example, France had Mauritius in the Indian Ocean. We have Reunion, what is called French Reunion in the Indian Ocean. Puducherry was there, Pondicherry, okay, Mahe, Yanam, Karaikal. These are all French colonies in the east. So France got interested in this area in order to protect her commercial interests in the east. At the same time, because of religious reasons, I told you within the Ottoman Turkish Empire, there were some holy places connected with Christianity, like Bethlehem and Jerusalem. So, for religious issue also, she got involved in this area. And after the unification, Italy and Germany, after the unification in 1871, also wanted to get a share of the spoils. They thought, why should we keep quiet? If something happens in the Balkans and we get some territory in the Balkans for our own purpose, why not? So they also wanted to get a share of the spoils, and that's why they also began to interfere in this area after their unification. Right? But please understand, Bismarck kept himself away from Balkan politics. But in 1878, I'll come to that in some time, in the Congress of Berlin, we have something called the Congress of Berlin, which happened in 1878. In the Congress of Berlin, he supported Austria and rebuffed Russia. And after this, Germany came closer to Turkey. So he rebuffed Russia and befriended Austria. Why he did that, I'll come to that later. Germany came closer to Turkey after that. So these are the conflicting interests. Understand this? Each of these countries have conflicting interests. Russia wanted to get a foothold in the Balkans so that through the straits of Bosphorus and Dardanelles, she can access the Mediterranean Sea, through which she can trade with other European countries. Also, she was acting as the big brother to all the Slavs in that area. All those Slavs, that is the Romanians, Bulgarians, Serbians, etc., they also used to follow Orthodox Catholic religion, just as the Russians used to follow the same religion. And Russia felt that she can act as the big brother to all the Slavs. This is Russia's interest. Austria, I told you, the river Danube passes through her territory and joins the Black Sea. She was afraid that Russia might control the river Danube. If Russia comes to control the river Danube, then she will lose her trading rights. And the Pan-Slav movement pioneered by Russia made her wary. So she wanted to see that Turkey remains strong so that Russia doesn't get a foothold in the Balkans. This is Austria's interest. England, I told you, had commercial interests in the east. And if Russia gets a foothold in the Balkans, then she might threaten her commercial interests in the east. So England's interest was to see that Turkey remains strong and united so that Russia doesn't take advantage of a weakened Turkey. Then France also had commercial interests in the east, and for religious issues, she interfered in this area. And finally, Italy and Germany for getting a share of the spoils. After the unification, they also interfered in this area, creating a very complicated question called the Eastern question. Right? Pan-Slavism is one Slav, or no, all the Slavs together, one Slav, like Pan Germany, Pan Slav. All the Slavs should come under one umbrella. They all should be under one umbrella. And Russia is the leader of all the Slavs, because Russians also belong to the Slav race. It's called Pan-Slav movement. No, no, that so he went through the what do you call uh, the circumnavigating Africa. It took 3 months. It took 3 months for him to travel. Probably, that's what it is. Okay. Now we'll come back here. Now let us look at revolts in the empire. Revolts. So I told you the developments in the Balkans led to a few wars. Wars between Turkey and Egypt, Crimean War, Russo-Turkish War, and the developments in this area became the immediate reason for the outbreak of World War I. So to understand World War I properly, you have to understand this topic. And then some things have to be remembered. Everything is not important. Some things have to be remembered. Right? Now look here. Let us look at revolts in the empire. Now, please understand, once Turkey became weak, we have, in the beginning of the 19th century, Turkey was called the sick man of Europe. We have the Christian minorities who began to assert themselves. The first to break out in revolt were the Serbians. The first to break out in revolt were the Serbians. And they revolted violently against the Turkish government. And the Turkish Sultan had no choice but to recognize the independent status of Serbia. So in 1830, Serbia became independent from the Ottoman Turkish Sultan. This is number one. Now, taking the example of the Serbians, we have the Greeks who began to revolt. Understand this. We have the Greeks who began to revolt. I might take just 5 minutes extra today. Just hold on. Now, Greeks began to revolt, inspired by the success of the Serbians. In 1821, they fought for 6 years. Till 1821, they fought for 6 years alone. So they revolted in 1821, and for 6 continuous years, they fought alone, the Greeks. And where is Greece? You see here, Grecia. You see, this is Greece, very small country, small, tiny area, Greece. So the Greeks began to assert themselves, wanted to achieve their independence. And the Ottoman Turkish Sultan ruled over a huge area. But still, the Greeks fought bravely. And the Turkish Sultan was not able to defeat the Greeks decisively. Now you have a vassal under the Turkish Sultan. That was the king of Egypt, the Pasha of Egypt. So vassal is a feudatory, Samant, So you have kings, and under kings you have feudal lords, feudatories, feudal lords, isn't it? So under the Turkish Sultan, you have Egypt, which was a feudatory. So the Turkish Sultan sought the help of the king of Egypt, the Pasha of Egypt. And the Pasha of Egypt sent his son Ibrahim. He was a great warrior. So Turkish Sultan sought the assistance of the king of Egypt, the Pasha of Egypt, Mehmet Ali. And Mehmet Ali, the king of Egypt, sent his son Ibrahim to wage war against the Greeks. And all sorts of atrocities were committed by Ibrahim on the Greeks, inviting the anger of England, France, and Russia. So England, France, and Russia told the Turkish Sultan, you better give autonomy to the Greeks. You give independence to Greece, otherwise we will navally blockade your country. We will take our navy and blockade your country. That's what England, France, and Russia threatened the Turkish Sultan to do. Threatened the Turkish Sultan. The Turkish Sultan told these great powers, England, France, and Russia, that he will give independence to the Greeks, but he did not do anything. That resulted in a naval war between England, France, Russia, and Turkey and Egypt. You see here on your screen, this is called the Battle of Navarino. England, France, Russia versus Turkey, Egyptian fleet. So this is called the Battle of Navarino. So England, France, Russia versus Turkey, Egypt fleet. When the war was going on, when this naval war was going on, England withdrew from Balkan affairs. England quietly withdrew from Balkan affairs. She stopped interfering in this area. So she withdrew. That is called England's policy of splendid isolation. Tomorrow I'll talk about it. Splendid isolation. So England withdrew voluntarily, and the war was continued by Russia. Russia continued to fight Turkey and Egypt. And ultimately, Turkey was defeated. We had the Treaty of Adrianople, which was signed. Understand the consequence here. So Russia was able to defeat Turkey. right? And the Treaty of Adrianople was signed. Under this, Greece was declared a self-governing state, but kept under Turkey. So Greeks can self-govern themselves, but they were kept under Turkey. And two areas, Moldavia and Wallachia. You can see here, Moldavia and Wallachia. These two areas were taken away from Turkey and given to Russia. So Russia got a foothold in the Balkans. Russia has defeated Turkey. Greece was declared a self-governing state but kept under Turkey. And Moldavia and Wallachia were snatched away by Russia. Right? So you see, Russians got a foothold in the Balkans. They have got Moldavia and Wallachia after defeating Turkey. Now the Greeks protested. Why did the Greeks protest? Because no independence was given to them. Though Turkey was defeated, no independence was given to them. They still were under the Turkish Sultan. But ultimately, in 1832, by the Convention of London, all the great powers, England, France, Russia, agreed to the independence of Greece. So the second country or second people to break free from the Ottoman Turkish Sultan were Greeks. Did you understand? This is, so you have, first was Serbia. You can see here, in 1830, Serbians became independent. In 1830, in 1832, Greeks became independent from the control of Turkey. And Moldavia and Wallachia, two areas, were snatched away by Russia, right, after defeating Turkey. So Russia managed to get a foothold in the Balkans. And remember whatever I had told you at the beginning of this topic, whenever Russia got a foothold in the Balkans, all the European countries joined together and neutralized Russia's gains. Okay, so this is about it. Now, look here on your screen. Another war broke out after a few years. So you see, Russia has got a foothold in the Balkans. This was not liked by other European countries. They were waiting for an opportunity to neutralize Russia's gains. After a few years, another war broke out between Turkey and Egypt. Another war broke out between Turkey and Egypt. Now, encouraged by the, okay, so sorry. So here Serbians became independent and Greeks became independent. Now we have the Turkey-Egypt war. I think I've run out of time here. I'll stop here. I'll continue this topic tomorrow, right? And I'll finish this topic and we'll start with World War I. So I have Eastern question to do tomorrow. I'll complete that in about 40 minutes. Eastern question. Small topic this is. We have Bismarck's alliance system. How the alliance system of Bismarck came into existence, and how he was responsible for the establishment of the Triple Alliance. And once Bismarck was dismissed, we have the coming of the Triple Entente. How did these two groups come into existence? I'll talk about it, and then we will complete World War I tomorrow. We'll start with World War I, and we'll discuss World War I. So then, day after tomorrow, I can do Russian Revolution. Are you there with me? So I will complete this Eastern question, and I'll tell you at the end what to remember in this topic. All the wars are not important. How Russia got gains in the Balkans, and every time she got a foothold, how it was neutralized by the countries, and ultimately we have Russia becoming so fed up that she focused upon Far East and Asia. And the developments in this area became the immediate reason for the outbreak of World War I. Therefore, it is relevant to do this topic. Though it is factual, but then it is very interesting. You just have to understand. We will talk about it tomorrow. Okay? So we'll meet tomorrow at the same time. You have a good night's sleep. And we'll meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Any answers, please mail me or to the Target IAS team, and we will evaluate and send it back. So all the best. We'll meet tomorrow. Please revise this topic. Just read it once or twice. Then we'll come back tomorrow. Okay. Good night. Thank you very much. I'm logging out.